I was getting to the good part.
Until you got to the bad part. Crackle. What the? Whopper, 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 junior, double.
I'm not who told you what about this? This name? I will charge you so that when you need charge you. I just said she was the one you book daddy. Ano her, what they call that? Where is my thing? I said daddy cook.
No, don't touch me. How the fish doing?
We not look.
Pop, pop. Dog. Tiny. Gonna give you the burger.
You don't have appetite, Be, to eat?
No. I don't like
Tiny, how are you, Be?
Tiny.
Are you tampo?
Tiny is not.
You see, he's eye to eye to me.
He's getting weird. He's
He
not.
said when they do your hand, they like you. Ako, Be?
When they kiss your hand,
Oo.
Let me try.
They like Calvin because
What the
Calvin is the one who's treating it.
they do like Calvin.
What the? They're like me?
Yes, because you're feeding
Yes.
them.
Let's try it again.
When they kiss your ano.
How do they kiss? How did they do it?
If they like.
So sometimes I pick him up.
Are you tampo ba?
You tumble.
Ayan.
Yeah.
I'll go down. There's food.
I'm just.
What the? He's not even food.
Maybe he's tired.
What the?
Tired eating.
Should I do the burger?
It's cold ba na?
This is what cold. Here, I'm wet. I'm soaking wet.
You need shirt?
I'm not eating them, Mommy.
He's eating.
Ooh. I'm gonna poke him. Able 4 times 4 6 5. Hey, 2 minus 1 equals 4. No, it's not. 2 minus 6 equals 14. They can I have the tomatoes.
Yes.
Thank you for allowing me to get the tomatoes. I wonder, Daddy, do guinea pigs eat tomatoes?
Alvin is eating.
Daddy, did you like the food at school?
I did like the food at school.
We should just get one next time.
Sometimes we get
Yan
spaghetti.
yung the pizza, no?
Sometimes
Huh?
And they give big, ano.
Big piece.
Oo.
yes.
You know, having you're so lucky here.
No. That's what I'm saying.
The food is free, di ba, Debbie?
Yeah, it's free.
Yeah, up until high
High
school.
school. But I have to save up some money.
No, I'll pay for it. We pay for it. I pay for ices. Although 2 years we didn't have to pay because they were homeschooled.
Go. Ah?
Icy.
Can I be homeschooled?
No, it was the thing. The pandemic.
I wish I was like that. I wish it was not them.
You want the pandemic again?
No!
We'll probably,
It's hard
Daddy,
there.
can guinea pigs eat?
When people is getting
Can
crazy.
guinea pigs eat tomatoes?
no,
Why?
they don't like it.
But they like watermelon.
But it takes them a long time to eat.
Oo.
Hey, what do...
When you give watermelon, you just need the green and then...
What do
Oh, you
the
think so?
I saw at ano.
What do guinea pigs food like? Can you research what do guinea pigs food like? No, I know.
Because I don't like it.
I just want to know what the types are so I can feed them to them.
Let me have it. Maters.
Tomato.
Maters.
How much?
Give me, I can grab a handful.
And I'll have a whole box. 5 seconds. When I eat all that, will be mad at me if I eat it
This
all?
is free.
There'll be so much playing at ano.
So after lunch, you automatically, everybody goes out to
Yeah.
goes out to play.
Yeah.
That's recess.
Ah,
Because that's what happened to Miles too. Miles went out to recess after his lunch.
and he wants to join the to us. Back, ano?
He wanted to go home.
Yeah.
Back.
But you didn't want to.
We said no.
Why?
Because you need to stay in. He was so happy for us to come to lunch.
You know you should do it again. You know you should do it again.
What?
Hello, Nugget. Go, eat now.
Quick, Nugget. When you hide that as guinea pig?
You're so biased to Nugget.
Why?
You just saw her.
I like Nugget the tiny.
Yeah,
No.
you're biased.
Nugget is ano eh, aloof. Like me. No, aloof ba? What do you call that?
Your head in the clouds.
No, I mean he's not to people. What do you call it, cabin?
Not so
Here.
wise.
Oo.
Here,
Nugget is me.
you're sociable.
You go to Texas Roadhouse. There are
Yeah.
people there. We didn't rent the house all to ourselves.
No more box na ba there? Ano? Roadhouse, ano? No more food na leftover.
Except for the French fries.
I just said he wants the still have that.
The,
The one you bake.
the egg.
I'm hungry na. Get iced tea, babe. It's cold.
What do you want me to do? What do you want me to cook? Just leftovers?
You have leftover.
Move the chicken.
I think we need to throw na that.
What?
The leftovers. Hello, Kuya.
Why? We just made it.
Ano? White. We need to read the ingredients, right? The white, that's the left. It's leftover. But I think you want, it's not like they put there that we need to throw.
Because you guys don't eat the adobo when I cook the adobo.
Just a little that.
I did.
And I eat when I'm hungry only.
That's what normal people you do. You eat when you're hungry.
Yeah, you're so guapo. I saw you, the para under you. What you call that? Don't erase. I just open one thing. Oy, just open one thing. Yes, don't erase all. Yes.
I'm going to search up what fruits do guinea pigs eat.
Right.
And you need to read something.
Just use your, where's your cell phone? Get your cell phone.
What do guinea pigs eat?
Cell phone. Don't do that to your lips. House phone.
Would you like us coming to lunch?
What?
Did he know what he by himself?
What is it? Okay.
The one who sits by himself
No.
with my stick.
That's a pear.
No, the kid that sits by himself with the soda.
Was he small?
Like your body.
What did he look like? What hair type did he have?
Black sheep.
Have you any more? No, sir. No, sir. You cannot. Oh my gosh!
He lifted it up.
Yeah, he lifted it partially up.
He's big little.
I know he's too big.
We should buy a new one.
Daddy will just add another.
Fruit works well with the occasional treat that offers once a day or several times a week. Keep the portions small since fruit is high in sugar. A small wedge of orange or apple, blueberries, a thin slice of banana, kiwi, strawberry, a little bit of watermelon.
They can eat ano.
To avoid diarrhea, only give them veggies twice a day.
Oh,
Wow, they don't have diarrhea. I like the guinea pigs don't have diarrhea. Kids, I feed them every single day. 2 times a day. Steady?
We're feeding them right.
Yeah. So they don't have the diarrhea.
They need hay every day.
We got day.
I thought we will save them. We just get there. Like ba?
No, they need actual hay.
That is our place.
Hey, shit that we buy.
I thought we will just get there. And then we will dry like ba?
Tomatoes. There you go.
Ay, no, baby. No, don't touch it. When it gets out.
What's the concern? You return the taxes to the party tonight. You started like that. No, I'm not. That's why they got him. The Cardinals, by the way, is sad that they've been 3-1 since obsession. James pretty day. You know, I think it's shot there. I like this.
Oh my God! Guys, the game is over.
Please tell me you're impressed. I'm glad he's healthy again. He's very popular with fans. People like him. Yeah. Oklahoma is the #1 seed in the NCAA shortball tournament. That makes sense to you. My God, yes, they go up to their third straight at 51-1 on the season. I'm glad we're in another region, hosting our own Northwestern, and maybe we want to play them, but anybody's going to play. CBS hired Matt Ryan as a studio game analyst. Is that a good fit? Wait a second. Does that mean that Matt Ryan is out? He's not going to play football anymore? He's said that on social media. This is not a retirement. Then what is it? Is he going to go work for something? What exactly is it? What? Last one, Kraken at the Stars in Game 7 tonight. I'm rooting for the team closest to Canada. So I'm rooting for the Kraken. And not for anybody else in the Sun Belt. You got that, Mr. 195? Kraken is not in the Sun Belt. A lot of time we're trying to get to the next time. Shout out to the baseball team in St. John's, Colorado. I'm like, same time we're on the break. You get the PGI podcast on the after podcast. And now,
Philly and NU student in January, January Diamaggio was in Guinea County Court today and is in studio now to give us an update. Today, 20-year-old Emma Adams appeared in court virtually from jail for status. Adams is charged with stabbing and killing 21-year-old Samuel Michael Clemens back in January after the remains were found in a fire pit at a home she was residing in. Adams faces 4 felony charges, including second-degree murder, armed criminal action, tampering with physical evidence, and abandonment of a corpse. Adams previously pleaded not guilty to all 4 charges. Her next status hearing is scheduled for June 26.
How many people
Final
found that?
the hearings for Samaria Robbins and Oscar Ashford. The 2 Columbia teens are charged with the murder of 15-year-old Aubrey Doxey back in July. Both their hearings will also be scheduled for later dates. Okay, thanks, Tia. A 1-year-old girl is dead after a train hit her in western Missouri Saturday. The crash report says she was on the railroad tracks in Hardin when the accident happened. The Ray County Sheriff says the office will not make a statement at this time, but is asking for community members to pray for everyone affected. A GoFundMe is collecting donations to support the family. Right now it's raised over
Got hit by a train.
$15,000. Police are also investigating the death of the baby after
On
someone
the tracks.
discovered the body in a wooded area in Kansas City. Someone passing by the
1-year-old.
area noticed the body and alerted police on Saturday night. Investigators believe the baby's body had been in the woods for a while. Medical examiner will conduct an autopsy in a wooded area, asking for community members to pray for everyone affected. A GoFundMe is collecting donations to support the family. Right now, it's raised over $15,000. Police are also investigating the death of a baby after someone discovered a body in a wooded area in Kansas City. Someone passing by the area noticed the body and alerted police on Saturday night. Investigators believe the baby's body had been in the woods for a while. Medical examiner will conduct an autopsy to determine how that baby died.
They're going to need to make a lot of determinations and go through a lot of processes that they do to give detectives the answers as far as exactly, what led to the death of this baby.
Police are treating this case as a death investigation.
International news. The Supreme Court agreed to take up 2 prominent cases with important political implications. The court will review a ruling which allowed a handful of congressional representatives to sue for government records pertaining to a Washington, D.C. hotel once partly owned by former President Trump. The court will also hear a case about alleged racial gerrymandering. In that case, a lower court struck down a South Carolina congressional district after determining the lines were drawn with race as one of the main factors.
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy spoke about the debt ceiling today. He He says the White House and the GOP-led House are still, quote, far apart as the two sides work on an agreement. He suggested the White House would rather default than strike a deal.
Would you be mad if I...
But they're not talking anything serious.
House Republicans passed a plan to slash federal spending, but that plan was dismissed by Democrats. President Joe Biden will meet with congressional and Senate leadership this week.
Business owners in Raleigh, North Carolina gathered publicly to announce their opposition to abortion restrictions. North Carolina's governor recently vetoed a bill that would ban abortions after 12 weeks. State lawmakers are preparing an override for that veto, trying to get the bill into law. Business owners say the abortion ban would threaten the state's economy. They are urging the General Assembly to uphold the governor's veto. Striking teachers in Oakland, California have a new deal. The Oakland Teachers Union reached a tentative agreement after more than a week of protests from staff and teachers. The new deal includes resources for unhoused students, reparations for black students, and a 15.5% salary raise for most teachers. Classes for students will resume tomorrow.
The CDC is warning of a familiar sickness that may cause new problems this summer. We'll have the details coming up.
But first, hear from an NU doctor on how you can help your allergy symptoms this season.
69 was the high temperature today, 61 the low. Not a whole lot of movement in terms of that temperature. Picked up some more rain though. We're talking rainfall totals. Plus, when this more wet pattern dries up again, that's coming up.
We're taking a live look over Columbia. It's 6 on your Wednesday. This is Halo Big News 5 coverage. Countdown.
On the next wheel, Shopping's free giveaway worth 10 grand. That's some good anyway.
Let the good times roll.
It's at 6:30 on KOMU8. Stay connected all day with the KOMU8 News app. With live streaming newscasts, breaking news, first alert weather, local sports stories, and school news. Download the free KOMU8 News app. Coverage you can count on.
You want me to get mad?
Download the free KOMU8 First Alert Weather app. Brought to you by University.
Not go dead?
I think my insider tip for people is that St. Louis is great.
Ooh, fucking chilly in here.
Turn up.
On Game Show Network. Then all you switch at 7. Halloween split second at 7:30. Another switch at 8. Supper at 8:30. And Pyramid at 9.
I know.
On Game Show
They're gonna
Network.
give us a fucking horrible
My mental
fucking-
health was much better, but I struggled with uncontrollable movements
Daddy.
while TD targeted speech. TD can be caused by some mental health things.
And it's unlikely to improve without treatments. I felt like my movements were in the spotlight.
Ingrezza is prescription medicine to treat adults with TB movements. Ingrezza is different. It's the simple, once-daily treatment proven to reduce TB that's never been prescribed. People getting Ingrezza can stay on their current dose of most mental health meds. Ingrezza 80 milligram is proven to reduce TB movements in 70% of people. Don't take Ingrezza if you're allergic to any of its ingredients. Ingrezza may cause serious side effects, including sleepiness. Don't drive, operate a computer, or do other dangerous activities until you know how Ingrezza affects you.
Do you smell something?
Yeah,
The
you
suspect and two
No.
officers.
The shooting happened in Farmington, about 10 miles northwest of St. Louis. Police confirmed the suspect was confronted and killed at that scene. Both of the police officers were found to be in stable condition.
A Springfield student has been suspended after recording a teacher using a racial slur. The student was placed on a 3-day suspension for violating district policy for inappropriate use of electronic devices. An attorney for the student's family plans to issue a demand letter to try to lift the suspension.
Hell
The
yeah.
teacher who used the slur is no longer employed by the school district.
No shit.
Well, the transition from spring to summer is taking place out there. And with that change in weather comes new allergies.
That's right. KMU8 Grace Gillis joins us in studio to tell us what people can expect allergy-wise anyway.
100
Poor North.
allergies could last longer than
I'll need to Elamon. so hard.
The growing season is expected to last about 3 weeks longer than past years. Many people with summer allergies can expect to experience sneezing, having a tough time breathing, and even hives due to grass pollen. Although this
See,
season may be less than
experts
usual, there are ways to make it manageable.
say there's a longer allergy
Having
season.
extra clothes on you that
That's
you
what
can
we
take
have.
off as you
Longer
get in
allergy
or
season.
showering.
That's
That's a
correct.
great thing to do.
Allergy!
You're gonna be sweaty anyways. Come in, take a shower, you'll get all that pollen off you.
Where's your phone?
Francis also says if you're going to be active outside, do it earlier in the day rather than later. In the studio, Grace Gillis, in Great News.
And there's one less option for the COVID vaccine coming up. What options you still have?
And more rain moving into the region. It's a welcome
Nugget!
start, but parts of the state could see flooding tonight. We'll talk about it in my first story for you.
Summer's here, and with a new Toyota, you can go out.
I'm putting it up.
You know, I think we are in a very similar position as the United Kingdom in the sense that both our countries don't have vaccine schemes. And I know that the Ukrainian government is involved with some other countries, but we should not forget how challenging it is to maintain the logistics network for F-16 plus the training. So this is something really to look for in the future, but now the focus should be on the upcoming offensive and make the support we are giving to Ukraine as sustainable as possible.
Well, this is a huge package from the biggest military support package so far. Big turnaround.
She left you. She
You
said,
know, I would not say it's a turnaround, but it's something that we have been doing
I told her,
more or less
wait.
since the beginning of the war. And
She said, F
so
you.
Yeah.
the decisions we have taken at the
Yeah.
European
why
level,
don't you just cook the
for
chicken?
example, for joint
Mom, I wanted to tell that.
munition
We have
production.
one
So
thing.
there were many decisions which were taken, and maybe the most important one was on the Leopard tank in January. As previous speakers have said, I mean, the big thing is about the Leopard that many European armies have used the Leopard. So you have one supply chain, you have one logistics, you have the same ammunition that can be used. So there are many, many advantages to equip the Ukrainian army with the Leopard tanks.
Why do you think there is a sudden urgency to ramp up the lethal aid this week?
I
Clearly,
said 162. Are
as
you
we've discussed already, the
gardening?
counter-offensive
I said
is
no.
imminent. But do you think that's something to do with the noises we've heard from Donald Trump in the last week or so, and the commitment that he's not prepared to make to Ukraine if he's
Who did
re-elected?
that?
I don't know.
I mean, there are some noises, especially among Republicans in the US, which are worrying. Also, the possible candidate, Mr. DeSantis, said that Ukraine is not in the national security interest of the US. But, you know, the trip which President Zelensky has made to 4 European capitals, in our view, it is mainly to reassure and to get the reassurances that Europe is going to continue to support Ukraine as long as it takes. And that's what we have made clear also in our statement.
Could the European capital sustain food without US help?
No, we need the US on board, so you're absolutely right. It sends a message also to some who are doubting among the Republicans. But I think for the Ukrainian public opinion and for the Ukrainians before this counter-offensive, it is very important to know that the Western countries stay united behind them and send a clear message that however this offensive ends, we will continue to support them.
Let's look at some comments Chancellor today from speaking in Berlin at Global Vision Summit. And he said that leaders from countries like India, South Africa, Vietnam have abstained from calling on Russia to end its invasion because they're struggling with the unequal application of the West principles. What do you mean by that?
What he meant is what we have seen regrettably in the United Nations, General Assembly and other places, that there are many countries who are sitting on the fence and the kind of equidistance between Ukraine and Russia. So I think what we wanted to say with that It's very similar with what the Foreign Secretary cleverly said about the so-called middle ground initiative. It means we have to engage with these countries, we have to talk to them, and we have to convince them that it's our common endeavor to uphold the UN Charter, the territorial integrity of countries, the sovereignty of countries, and that it should be in their genuine interest to do that together with us. And that means we have to engage them. This issue of double standards, or however you want to call it, is something that we have heard from African leaders who said, you are very engaged in Ukraine, but what about the war in Congo? What about conflict in Africa? Where are you there? Will you also help us to solve these kind of conflicts and challenges? And I think that's what Chancellor Scholz meant with his speech today.
Very interesting. Ambassador David, always good having you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News. Look at some of the other stories making headlines today. A British pensioner accused of murdering his ill wife has told a court in Cyprus that she begged him to help end her life. Janice Hunter, who was 74 and had cancer, died in December 21 at home with Paphos. Lawyers for her 75-year-old husband David say her death was assisted suicide. Exams are getting fully underway for most pupils in England, Wales and Northern Ireland. England's exam regulator said the disruption caused by COVID will be taken into account in the GCSE and A-level grades awarded. The regulator says COVID cast a long shadow and that students should be able to get the same grade they would have done if the pandemic hadn't happened. In what is thought to be the world's first driverless buses have entered service in Edinburgh. The operator of Stagecoach, 65 single-deck buses, must be capacity for around 10,000 passenger journeys per week. Despite being driverless, the buses will still have 2 members of staff on board to monitor technology and assist passengers. You're live with BBC News. Rishi Sunak launched his own country offensive tonight. He's been holding a garden party at number 10, officially to celebrate the King's coronation. But it comes at a precarious time for the Prime Minister. The Conservatives are licking their wounds after a poor showing in the recent local elections, and suddenly future leadership candidates are on the manoeuvres. In recent days, some on the Conservative right have been asking whether the Prime Minister is fully committed to Brexit and that bonfire of EU laws which and then there is the other thorny issue of Labour. Where should net migration be set for the benefit of the British economy? Today, the Home Secretary Suella Braverman, addressing the National Conservatism Conference, said it was time the UK focused on homegrown talent rather than constantly opening the door to low-skilled labour abroad.
I voted and campaigned for Brexit. Indeed, I'm a proud Spartan. Because I want a Britain to control migration. So that we all have a say on what works for our country. High-skilled workers support and where the labour market has acute or structural shortages, as with the NHS, it is of course right that we should have an immigration system agile enough to plug those shortages. But we need to get overall immigration numbers.
Going to discuss with our Westminster political correspondent Ian Watson. Ian, good to see you. How is Downing Street reacting to this renewed sense of unrest within the party? Well, as you say, there's been a lot of dry-handing going as he speaks in the back, laughing in the bread with some evening. Over at Downing Street, with the Prime Minister talking to many of his Western MPs, arrested because of huge losses in local government elections. Recently, there were thousands of Conservative councillors losing their seats, and some people feeling, of course, to just move on. The outcome of the general election next year. So there are some problems there, but it's certainly not directly going to wrong because the Bloody Secretary was seen in his cabinet cell rather than making
Who said that was okay?
Not the official Conservative conference, I should add. The
Yeah.
national Conservative conference is people who are basically on the Labour Party supporters of Brexit. But I think the new movement is very interesting. I want to say is, part of still within the Conservative politics, they look at the stop down that immigration, but she is still very much supporting immigration down elsewhere in that speech. Hey, are you Claire Montgomery? Yes, yes, that's me. Okay, don't worry, everything's gonna be okay. How did you get your voice back? Boys, get him out of here. Don't even look at him, it's alright. Claire, tell him he's wrong. Hey, tell him that was good shit. Tell him you're sorry. Somebody get him in the car. Want to take Derek's words? Babe, please, get in the car with the papa. Babe, you have to listen to him. Which is effectively suggesting that some of the work for the job should be done more by people that are already here rather than taking people from outside. But the situation at the moment is that there is actually a minimum level of earnings that you're supposed to have if you come to the United Kingdom to join the
No, you're back up.
There's perhaps a little bit shortage of money
Honey, down there. And
Yogurt. Let it stand for 2 minutes. Done and dusted. This works.
okay, I'm gonna put it up.
How to eat mango like a pro. Peel mango with your left hand. Properly insert the craft stick. Let it sit for 8 hours in freezer. Glaze with yogurt. Let it stand.
How to become chunky baddie in Roblox. Use this as your scale. Use these legs. Use this one. That's promo at the convenience store.
Campaign for Brexit was all about taking back control, and they think many voters believe that was taking back control of immigration, fine migration figures may put them off. So from Ricky Sunak's point of view, he does have a political problem. He's treading very gently with sales rather than actually being directly to war with it.
Okay, we'll come back to that issue very shortly. Also speaking at this conference today, Jacob Rees-Mogg, the former business secretary, commented with me. Listen to this.
Parties that try and gerrymander end up finding that their clever schemes contract behind them. As dare I say, we found by insisting on negotiating ID for elections, and we found people didn't have ID, were elderly, and they found large voting conservative. So we made it hard for our own voters, and we upset the system that worked perfectly well, was run with noise and our company did on an honesty basis, when the real problem is with posting voting. So they get too fretful about random schemes brought up by the socialists, because gerrymandering doesn't really work.
You sort of find that quite a
Wow,
statement.
what a wonderful day!
Legislation was agreed, who helped guide it through Parliament.
Nobody
What is it? It was in fact an attempt to gerrymander the election.
Yes, it is absolutely astonishing, isn't it? They're using that word gerrymandering and using it for its own side. This is the former business secretary, as I say, 15 years in government when this legislation was going through. This required people to produce photo IDs for the first time in English local council elections. So again, Downing Street, of course, played it relatively cool, saying that this is not gerrymandering that many other countries, and we did in Northern Ireland, this has been the case for some time, that voter ID was required. So again, we don't necessarily scope of the business, but it is an interesting insight into the mood of the Conservative Party at the moment, that someone who used to be in a Conservative cabinet is actually using that kind of terminology, effectively forcefully that accusation be made against people on his own side of the argument. And his fear is, of course, that older people who might be more likely to vote Conservative were people who couldn't actually produce the photo ID. The argument on the other side is that this is an attempt to suppress the vote amongst young people to try to make them effectively disenfranchised, because some of the photo ID that would be required was something they may not themselves have.
Ian, thank you very much for that. Let's pick up on the issue of visas. Tomorrow, Rishi Sunak will be joined by ministers from the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, as well as farmers and ministry leaders concerned about food security. It would seem there is, as Ian suggests, a battle brewing between the Home Secretary and DEFRA over seasonal work visas. Fruit and vegetables have been rotting in the field. Some farmers have gone out of business. Enough people to pick
Protect yourself.
So, Harmony wants number 20 increase the number of temporary visas. Let's speak to George Beach, who's Director of Motherwell's Farm in Worcestershire in the West Midlands. Welcome to the programme. In the context that we're in, the cost of living crisis, this long-term debate about food security, why is the supply of labour and the issue of seasonal visas so crucial to you?
It's very, very crucial. It's very interesting that our Home Secretary said that skilled labour is the most important thing for the economy. And fruit picking is an incredibly skilled job. And I think somewhere there's a gap between what actually is skilled labour and what isn't. We, as an industry, will suffer tremendously if we don't get the product harvested And that is our biggest concern as an industry.
How bad has it got for you?
For me, individually, I'm only running a very small farm, so actually, honestly, for me, this isn't too horrendous. However, my business is very, very affiliated to a lot of large producers, and it is vital for them that they have this right labour at the right time for the period they need it, in order to allow us to get that great product into the market.
Within this meeting tomorrow, the NFU is going to lobby for higher food prices, which will, I think, alarm a lot of people who are listening. Food inflation will be running some of us at 40%. How can we sustain a fair rate?
Well, I think it's more about the rise back to the farmer and the grower. I absolutely accept that there should be an increase in the value of produce. However, I think it's the gap between the price the consumer pays and the price the farmer grower receives.
So it's more
That
about
is where
supermarkets recycling some of that profit.
Yeah, I think it's about where that profit's placed. We all understand everyone has to make a profit, but I think there needs to be a big magnifying glass on the gap.
So just briefly, just got a minute left. The Swan government talks about training our own people to be truthful. Can you try and employ these people?
We've tried, and we've tried again, and I'm afraid it is virtually impossible. Anyone in the UK is looking for a full-time job, not a part-time job, or unfortunately they either can't work or don't want to work. And that is the biggest problem, is that harvesting fruits and vegetables, a lot of information is coming in, but it's a long way off before we can not rely on our hands and the dexterity that is. So it's a skilled operation, and we need support to make sure that we continue to harvest.
George Beach, we'll watch the meeting tomorrow closely. Thank you very much for joining us, George Beach. So we're going to talk about the election in Turkey and the run-up 2 weeks ahead.
Funding for presentation of this program is provided by financial services firm Raymond James, BDO, accountants and advisors. Funding was also provided by the Freeman Foundation, by Judy and Peter Bloom Kovler Foundation, pursuing solutions for America's neglected needs, and by contributions to this PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you. You're watching PBS.
The PBS NewsHour is celebrating 50 years of unbiased reporting.
The speech that the foundation for Democrats has been pushed for voting rights.
Have not yet been moved. Basically, having their run of the vote.
Covering a broad range of stories.
You got wrestling.
What's it like on that stage?
I'm on the dive.
And I'm Jeff Banks. Join us every weeknight on the PBS NewsHour.
You're watching KMOS, locally PBS station.
On Finding New Roots, actors Pamela Adlon
I'm so curious.
and Catherine Hahn.
It went to a new world.
Family history reveals secrets
How do you know that?
and scandal.
Do you think they kept all of this a secret from everyone?
Isn't that nuts?
Plus, a DNA match.
What? That's so cool!
This is Alison Crockett. And this is her husband, Jesus. The people around her are terrified of her. It's funny. Funding for presentation of this program is provided by
Architects. Bookkeeper. Mentor. The Raymond James Financial Advisor. Leaders advice to help you live your life while planning.
Actually, you don't need vision to be a responsible. It's exciting to be part of the team driving technology forward, and that's the most rewarding thing. People who know UVA.
Funding was also provided by the Freeman Foundation, by Judy and Peter Bloom Kovler Foundation, pursuing solutions for America's neglected needs, and by contributions to this PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
And now, ABC News.
I'm asking Sherry in Washington, and this is BBC World News America. A final report, but likely not the last word, with details of the FBI's probe into Donald Trump's 2016 campaign and alleged ties to Russia. Ukraine's president visits the UK, where he presses the Prime Minister for weapons.
Are you okay?
Zelensky says his country needs fighter jets and needs them soon. Plus, mark your calendars. Turkey's presidential runoff is set for May 28th. Longtime leader Recep Tayyip Erdogan's political fate is once again on the ballot and on the line. Welcome to World News America on PBS and around the globe. We want to get right into some news we have here in Washington and will report more than breathe for the Nugget. It's the FBI's investigation into Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. Special counsel John Durham found that the Bureau should have never launched a probe into the campaign's alleged ties with Russia. He didn't recommend any measures or penalties against the FBI. And many of the details of the Bureau's conduct at the time have already been made public. Now here's the FBI's response. The agency says FBI leadership already implemented dozens of corrective actions, which have now been in place for some time. Had those reforms been in place in 2016, the missteps identified in the report could have been prevented. Well, North American correspondent Gary O'Donoghue is in the studio with us now. So, Gary, what have we actually learned today?
Well, this report was established under Donald Trump. It was designed to look into the reasons that the FBI launched that probe into his connections with Russia. Donald Trump believed this would prove what he called the crime of the century, a deep state conspiracy set up to undermine him in his campaign. What it's actually proved is a bunch of missteps by the FBI, yes, what it claims confirmation bias by the FBI, using raw, unanalyzed data, and doing severe reprehensible harm to John Durham to the FBI. Bear in mind that the fruits of this investigation, the two criminal prosecutions where two people were acquitted, the one mid-level FBI lawyer who admitted to all three.
But despite what you just mentioned there about what has actually come out of this report, the convictions, how is this likely going to affect the 2024 race?
Well, I think we've had a glimpse of that already, because Donald Trump's immediate reaction to this was to say, first of all, wow, and then to go on to say that this report was 300-page report, proved, in his words, the American people had been scammed. So bear in mind that Donald Trump, his raison d'etre is to set himself up as an outsider, someone who's a target for a forced conspiracy by the establishment and the deep state. He will be waving this document around and say, here we are, proof yet again that they're out to get me. And that is something that is definitely motivated him and his supporters in the context.
And whether people believe him that this is some deep state conspiracy or not, how does this actually reflect on the FBI?
Well, the FBI, I think, as you said at the beginning, have acknowledged some problems. They've said they put those right. One of their lawyers did have to think through this, but also email. And the issues around, particularly around phone taps and how they're authorised and how they're taken to the court is something that they've addressed. But bear in mind the Justice Department, its Inspector General, has already looked at the way that FBI behave, and he said there would be no political bias in the instigation of this investigation in the first place.
Gary, thank you so much for your time. Now, President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky has met UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak at his country residence, Chequers. He thanked the United Kingdom and said he was grateful for the military aid it's providing. He said that aid can save the lives of his people in their fight against Russia. It's the final leg of Mr. Zelensky's tour of Western allies. On Saturday, he was in Rome shaking hands with the Pope, whom he invited to Kyiv. Sunday was Berlin. Germany's leader Olaf Scholz announced a defence weapons package worth £2.4 billion. Then in Paris, President Macron promised more light tanks and armoured fighting vehicles. As for Britain, it announced it was sending Ukraine hundreds of long-range attack drones and air defence missiles. Our diplomatic correspondent Caroline Freely reports.
The last stop in the whirlwind tour. His visit here being announced this morning. President Zelensky arrived at Chequers fresh from talks in Europe. His mission, to get from the West the weaponry he needs to fight back against Russia. It's his second trip to the UK this year. The key, he said, was substantive negotiations.
You are actually the first foreign leader that I've had the privilege of welcoming here as Prime Minister.
This was here. Yes, it was time. You said no to us.
Definitely no way off.
So we, of course, will discuss very important issues, urgent support for Ukraine and the security, not only for Ukraine, it's probably for all in Europe. So thank you.
The UK is the biggest donor of military aid to Ukraine after the United States. Last week it announced it had given these Storm Shadow missiles, which have a range of up to 150 miles, much longer than anything it had before. Today the government promised hundreds more air defence missiles, as well as hundreds of more long-range attack drones. It's already promised or given Ukraine arms and equipment worth close to £5 billion, and trained more than 15,000 Ukrainian troops last year. The Kremlin said it took an extremely negative view of the latest UK support, but that it wouldn't change the course of the conflict. To turn the tide in Ukraine's favour, President Zelensky says he still wants Western warplanes and what he calls a coalition of jets. From the Prime Minister, no commitment, no plans for that.
Not a straightforward thing, as Roger and I have been discussing, to build up that fighter combat aircraft capability. It's not just the provision of planes, it's also the training of pilots and all the logistics that go alongside that.
Today we spoke about the jets, a very important topic for us, because we can't control the sky, we know it.
President Zelensky has been busy as Ukraine prepares a long-awaited counter-offensive against Russia, shaking a lot of hands, not only in France, but Germany too, and in Rome, rallying support wherever he can get it. But Ukraine, he said today, still needs more time. Every day the war that Russia started causes more casualties, these soldiers wounded in Bakhmut. More lives will be lost in the Ukrainian counter-offensive when it comes. But its outcome will have implications not only in Ukraine, but far beyond. Caroline Hurley with the science.
In Turkey, pollsters were calling this weekend's election the biggest challenge President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has ever faced. With the results are in, he and his main challenger, Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, will go head-to-head. Mr. Erdogan led the first round with 49.51% of the vote. Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu polled at 44.88%. The second round will go ahead on May 28th. It is a clear
No, it means they're tied and they gotta do it again.
To our correspondent, Orla Darren, and she has more on that. Orla, thank you so much for joining us. This is a better result for President Erdogan than many had predicted. How is he likely to view the results?
I think it's probably a better result than he had predicted and some of those around him. Almost all of the opinion polling coming up to Sunday's vote had suggested that his main rival, the opposition candidate Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, had a narrow lead. Now, in effect, what happened on Sunday is that the president came out on top. He has about a 4% lead over Philip Sherwood. He didn't get over the threshold of 50%. He narrowly missed that. But he has been keen to stress that he got 2.5 million votes more than his rival. Now, both sides have accepted that there will have to be a second round runoff in 2 weeks' time. But critically for President Erdogan, he and his allies have retained control of Parliament, so that is an advantage that they take into the second round. And I would say the momentum now is very much with them. There is a real sense here among the opposition camp of disappointment. People feel deflated. I think there was a degree of shock yesterday. And one opposition official that we spoke to today said, yes, it will be an uphill battle for us now to try and keep our people motivated and get them out again.
And President Erdogan had received quite a bit of criticism after the earthquake.
Extension
And
still
he clearly
outside?
has a strong base of support. How is he viewed domestically in Turkey?
I think what yesterday's vote has proven once again is that he is a very effective campaigner, and he is, as one supporter put it to us last week, an election machine. He knows how to rally his party faithful. He has a bedrock of support among
But I don't think there's tea
conservatives.
in it.
They feel that he speaks their language, he represents their interests, he has put Islam back at the centre of public life in Turkey, which after all is supposed to be a secular republic. And also running up to the election, there was a huge giveaway. He was handing out, for example, 45% pay rises to public sector workers, pension benefits and other giveaways. So he was trying to address the economic damage that has been caused here by runaway inflation.
And you said President Erdogan is an election machine, that's how he's viewed. But there has been some criticism from monitoring groups about the integrity of these elections. What do we know?
Well, I think there are two separate things to look at here. One is the mechanics of the election, and broadly speaking, that has been approved by observers from the OSCE, some small reservations. But they point out that the backdrop to all of this is important. Conditions do not exist, they say, in Turkey for proper, free, fair, democratic elections because the president, for example, has so much control over the media and because some political opponents are in jail.
Really interesting. Thank you so much, Paula, for joining us. So Thailand now, and this is being called a political earthquake. Two main opposition parties have won a decisive victory in the general election. Voters there have abandoned the military-backed government. Instead, they've delivered a powerful rebuke of the coalition, and they clearly want change. Opposition leader Peter Limjaroendra and his Move Forward party gained a lead over other parties in both seats and the popular vote, giving them a mandate to form a new government. That's not as easy as
Daddy, are you okay?
The Move Forward party has to face complex negotiations to try and build a governing coalition. From I have reports now from the capital, Bangkok.
Stunned by their success, Thailand's youngest and most progressive party came to celebrate at the place they call Democracy Monument. Built to commemorate a democracy that many Thais say they have never had. Today we have politics driven by hope in this country. We were told by Ransom and Rome, an MP who, like so many in the party, has spent time in jail for his political views. Move Forward caught the public's imagination with the boldness and clarity of its manifesto.
They look very happy. This is a moment of elation for supporters of a party that probably never expected to get this close to being at the heart of government. But some very tough days lie ahead. It's not even clear that despite the mandate the party's got, that they will be allowed to take office.
Party leader Peter Limjaroendra was quick to claim victory after reaching out to like-minded parties for what he hopes will be a reformist coalition government.
The sentiment of the era has changed, and it's right. It was the right time that people have been through enough of lost decades. Today is a new day, and hopefully it's full of bright sunshine and hope.
Party's path to power could yet be blocked by Conservative opposition in the unelected Senate or by the Election Commission or the courts. which in the past have been used to depose elected governments.
In other countries, we have the largest two parties like this combined with more than half of the lower chamber into the government. But in Thailand, it's up to the referee agencies, and the referee agencies have shown themselves not to be impartial. So I'm sure that they will concoct something. It will be surprising if it becomes straightforward.
Nice. Will be many days of uncertainty ahead in Thailand as its people wait to see whether they get the government that so many voted for, or whether they end up with something else. John Head, BBC News, Bangkok.
A 78-year-old US citizen has been sentenced to life in prison in a Chinese court for spying. In a press conference, Hong Kong's security minister said authorities were notified of Mr. Leung's arrest in 2021. He declined to comment any further on the case. Now, Mr. Leung's arrest comes amid growing tensions between the US and China. You may remember this.
Daddy, there's balloons!
The US military shot down a suspected Chinese spy balloon that was transported to parts of the continental US. China
I need help.
Now
sing.
China also said it was all part of a weather research study. Then in April, China carried out military drills that included a potential blockade around Taiwan. That was in response to the Taiwanese president meeting US House Speaker Kevin McCarthy the week prior. But there were more positive developments last week. US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and the Chinese top diplomat Wang Yi met in Vienna, with both sides describing the meeting as candid, substantive, and constructive. Nonya Iqbal joins us now. Nonya, what do we actually know about this case?
I had to check it over my head at recess.
The details are pretty vague at the moment. We know that this man is 78 years old. He was born in Hong Kong, a permanent resident, also a US citizen. And he was arrested on April the 15th, 2021. So that was just after China had implemented all these really tough restrictions and other social controls to stop the pandemic from spreading. The trial was held in secret, which is the way in China. The charges are pretty vague. Spying charges, we don't really know exactly specifically what that means. On the trial, usually when someone is convicted and sentenced, there's a long delay. In terms of this sentence, it's pretty harsh. It's relatively rare to have that as a foreign national. He's been jailed for life. He's also, to quote the court document that came out of Suzhou, which is the southeastern city of China where he was arrested and charged. It says that basically he's had his political rights deprived for life and his personal property taken away from him. The State Department released a statement, pretty short one, saying that there's no greater priority than the safety and security of US citizens abroad. President Biden hasn't commented on it yet, but as you mentioned there, this comes at really bad timing because relations between the two superpowers aren't great at the moment.
Well, just on that, given the fact that the relationship wasn't great to begin with, how is this likely to affect the US and China's relationship?
Well, you mentioned that meeting just before you came to me between the National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and China's top diplomat Wang Yi, which was held last week in Vienna. It lasted for about 8 hours. The way they described it was interesting. They said that it was substantive and candid and constructive. But what's interesting is also last week, on Friday, Washington condemned China for the imprisonment of a human rights activist. So their relationship is kind of going back and forth. There's like this push and pull, and Joe Biden has always said that he wants to be pretty straight with China. So I think one can assume and speculate that there will be conversations about this. As of yet, though, the issue is that we don't know fully the details about this particular man's case.
Thank you so much. Now, in Bangladesh, nearly 1 million Rohingya refugees living in the world's largest makeshift camp have narrowly avoided disaster from a cyclone at the coastline. Aid agencies say it's another reminder of just how vulnerable the refugees still are. And so the Prime Minister is calling on the international community to show them more responsibility. Now, a reminder of the backstory. The Rohingya Muslims were one of several ethnic minorities in neighbouring Myanmar. In August 2017, a crackdown by the army meant hundreds of thousands fled across the border into Bangladesh, bringing camps around Cox's Bazar. This month, the BBC was given special access to the camp. As our Asia correspondent is doing her Manhattan, and her team report now on the story of Anwar, a 5-year-old boy with a new lamb in transit.
With his body down for her love. Unlike the Duke, he is on his own in the BBC Network new refugee camp. When my baby used to kick me in my room, I used to think that I would bring him to a beautiful and peaceful world. But that was 2017. So what became of baby Anwar? He was one in a million in the world's largest refugee camp in Bangladesh. Home to Rohingya families who fled violence in Myanmar. 5 years later, he went in search of them through a maze of tiny lanes. He found a wide-eyed, yet shy and Anwar has 2 sisters. This one room, their family home. No windows for air, no toys to play with, barely any clothes. It's a miserable existence. I want him to live like other children. I want him to be educated, have clean clothes, and eat proper food. But I can't, because I don't have anything. Anwar is a fragile existence. Living in squalor, he's sick all the time. In March, he nearly died of pneumonia.
Not too far from where Anwar lives. There's very little space and room here, with row after row of bamboo shelter crammed into the space. It's also kept in chamber, so it's impossible to overstay, plus have certain favors and living conditions are.
This is the tale of half a million
Are you cooking him some nuggets?
a generation's worth of violence,
I'm not done, but
of an education. There are no formal schools in
just don't want the
South
grease or the oil
a
burning.
couple of hours a day.
Yeah, I
Unlike
can
the
smell it.
makeshift classroom,
Oh
supported
shit,
by
what
the
happened?
life. You get basic lessons. Every child in this room is a refugee.
Damn.
The Bangladeshi government doesn't allow them to be taught the local curriculum or language.
We have the meat.
We have the meat.
He wants them to return to Myanmar. The country
We have the meat.
We have the meat.
I hope you can push me down.
You want me to punch you?
Push me down.
Oh, push you down.
Hold on. Where's that?
Why do you want me to punch you? I don't want to punch you.
Yeah, push me.
How much yesterday?
He ate 20.
I'll have to borrow from others.
He ate 2 11s. So 22.
The money she gets.
But you can only do 11 at a time.
She'll have to feed her family.
Only do 11 at a time.
The world promised it wouldn't forget babies like Anwar when this crisis began. But as he's grown, the help his children are getting is growing. Anwar's future was never going to be easy. It doesn't have to be this time. Ajiva Binarvan, BBC News, is playing refugee camp.
What is this chocolate?
Yeah. You know where the cups and the grinder is?
And one of the most popular treats in the UK.
Yeah, they're up here. They were. I don't put it. You're the one who puts it up. There's one.
But Sabio's gelato turned out to more than 500 flavours. But it's one particular porcine pot that's posing problems.
So that's the person takes flavour, and then it's
straight away just do this mayonnaise. So we need to use it. This is the one that flattered, we can inspire to trade flavors from possibly. The decorated the water uses It's been quite nice about it. Yeah, I mean they've been really brilliant about it. I think there's some bad gigs. There were some more than two. And the people
chicken.
like hearing one of M&S's Christmas ads.
But Daddy, push me down.
Dude, I'm working.
When you're done with
Percy Pig is the nation's favourite pig. Where imagine Pepper might have something to say about that. We're still adding Percy. He's careful to let the cook his name full of people having products.
ice cream. Ice cream.
Will go.
Icy's back.
Ice cream.
So we also want to see our favourite page. There were 20
How do you know that?
Ice cream. Hogging bars, and then the winner was notorious.
I thought it was icy clammy.
In advertising. Different label, same rate.
Read the message.
John Morrison.
Here's a secret on how to plastic code Now remember you can find more on all the day's news, including the research with plastic kids on our website.
You should say to her, what, you're not giving us any?
Uy, did you read back? Can I see?
Thank you so much for watching.
You know she's
Funding for presentation of this program is provided by
Where did you see that?
financial services firm Raymond James,
That they're eating ice cream.
BDO, accountants and advisors. Funding is also provided by the Freeman Foundation by Judy and Peter Bloom Kovler, pursuing solutions for a
Ice cream. I thought it was icy cream.
You're watching PBS.
like pasta.
I always believed that people are at the heart of every story.
Any story or interview that makes people who watch it say, you know, I hadn't thought of it in that way. That for me is special.
I like to be able to leave the viewer with some sort of emotion, whether it's outrage, whether it's someone overcoming long odds, telling a big story through an individual story.
What makes the News Hour different is that we have time to be thoughtful about the stories that we tell, the voices that we intend to elevate.
I know the role that good journalism plays in making all of us feel more connected to each other and helping all of us understand each other a little bit. I
Work
see
is
this
so
as
hot.
and I see this
There's the worms. Worms.
How about worms, right?
Yeah, they'll come up because of the rain.
Believe it or not, when I read about vegetables that people talk to me media, family, concern, and the meaning of
And when you cut the grass, it's easier to see.
is totally number or daily on.
Correct.
You're watching
Nice, your nuggets, babe.
CBS station.
Come on, Kuya. Nice, come here. Nuggets, Kuya.
KMOS TV is supported in part by Robert Rollins Architects of Sedalia. Robert Rollins Architects is a full-service architecture firm that designs distinctive, energy-efficient, and cost-effective projects in large and small communities throughout Missouri. Delivering success for over 20 years, we strive to meet our clients' unique needs that include common sense with an eye for innovation. Robert Rollins Architects, your vision is our direction. 660-829-9751.
Support for KMOS TV is provided by Restoration Eye Care, with the main office in Columbia. Outreach locations include Restoration Eye Care offers basic and cataract surgery, glaucoma care, and oculoplastics, while partnering with local nonprofits to help the community thrive. Learn more at restorationeyecare.com or by calling
Scared of the blender?
441
Sorry, buddy.
7070.
TMOS programs are sponsored in part by Galen Doty, financial advisor for over 25 years in Clinton and a member of the Doty Legacy Group, LLC. Doty Legacy Group helps clients crystallize their goals and objectives, create family harmony when passing the legacy on to the next generation. Doty Legacy Group, 125 South Washington Street on the Square in Clinton. Doty Legacy Group is a proud supporter of TMOS TV.
Good evening, I'm William Brangham. Jeff Bennett and I'm Nugget are away. On the NewsHour tonight, a long-awaited special counsel's report sharply criticizes the Justice Department and FBI's investigation into the 2016 Trump campaign and its possible ties to Russia. President Zelensky tours Europe to secure more military aid while the fighting against Russian forces rages in eastern Ukraine. And a survey of Asian Americans paints a sobering picture about their fears of rising violence and discrimination.
Over half of Asian Americans felt unsafe. They felt unsafe in public transportation, on subways. They felt unsafe in their own neighborhoods, in their own schools, and their own workplaces.
Major funding for the PBS NewsHour has been provided by the ongoing support of these individuals and institutions, and friends of the NewsHour, including Leonard and Joe McClure, and Peter and Patricia Yu.
It's like an aha moment. This is what I love doing. Pharmaceutical companies have this energy that energizes me. These are people who are trying to change the world. When I volunteer with women entrepreneurs, it's the same thing. I'm helping people reach their dreams. I'm thriving by helping others every day. People who know video.
The William and Flora Hewlett Foundation, for more than 50 years advancing ideas and supporting institutions to promote a better world at hewlett.org. And with the ongoing support of these individuals and institutions.
Yummy, huh? Huh? Macaroni that's already cooked. Then wash it off. Salad.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
The long-awaited report by Special Counsel John Durham about the FBI's probe into the 2016 Trump campaign and its alleged ties to Russia was released publicly today. Durham was appointed by former Trump Attorney General William Barr to look into what many on the right saw as a politically motivated investigation. While Durham's report offers no significant new evidence, it is deeply critical of the FBI. Durham called their handling of parts of the investigation seriously deficient and wrote that investigators were too credible towards partisan actors, writing, "Senior FBI personnel displayed a serious lack of analytical rigor towards the information that they received." Washington Post reporter Devlin Barrett has been following all of this, and he joins me now. Devlin, thank you so much for being here. This is the culmination of 4 years of work by John Durham. What else did this report say?
The report basically goes through all the steps taken in the investigation known as Crossfire Hurricane and faults the FBI again and again for how they did it. But it also doesn't particularly tell us much more than we already knew, and frankly, many of these criticisms have been said before, years before, by others who looked at this.
So what Durham seems to be arguing is that the FBI received a lot of information about the Trump campaign back in 2016, and that the FBI should have treated that information as more suspect than they did. Is that the gist here?
Basically, what they're basically saying in this report is the FBI actually didn't have a lot in terms of allegations to go on and didn't do enough careful analysis and work to try to stand up the kinds of allegations it was getting. And basically their argument is the FBI rushed forward to investigate Trump, when if you look at some past Clinton cases, the FBI was more cautious. But the truth is the FBI ultimately investigated both Trump and Clinton, so I don't know how powerful that criticism is.
So did Durham say that there was no reason that the FBI should have been looking at the Trump campaign?
The report, interestingly, actually says it makes sense for the FBI to have examined this initial tip they got from an Australian diplomat, which frankly is in some ways a walk back from other suggestions Durham has made in the past. I think the report is actually fairly cautious and not particularly critical on what was supposed to be his biggest criticism, which is that the case never should have been opened.
Well, 8.5, because the last day's a half day. Half day.
Says, Durham concludes the FBI never should have launched the Trump-Russia probe! In other words, the American public was scammed. Again, to the point you're making, that's not what this report is indicating.
No, and in fact, as I read the Durham report, what he's basically arguing is the FBI should have opened a preliminary report as preliminary investigation as opposed to a full investigation. That's a fine distinction, but I think only lawyers and agents care about that level of granular detail, and I don't think in the end it matters that much.
Who does Durham specifically point his critical judgment at? Is it senior levels of the FBI and the DOJ, or more rank and file members?
It's definitely the senior level that he is most critical of, and there's particular agents who oversaw these cases that have been criticized in the past, and he is even more critical of them, arguing that they essentially have a confirmation bias, that they were naturally suspect of Trump, and that colored their thinking. That's something that, frankly, those officials have to say, look, we as the FBI had an obligation to investigate these allegations.
As you mentioned before, the Inspector General of the Department of Justice issued a report several years ago that covered a lot of this material. And then the FBI and the DOJ had to respond to that. Have they, FBI or DOJ, responded to this revelation today?
They have, but they're
like Owen's not there. Who
already instituted
who do you hang out with?
A number of changes to policies and practices where there were things that were found to be wrong and shouldn't have happened. And frankly, most of the people who made those decisions are long gone from the
Devlin Barrett of the Washington Post. Thank you so
Or
much.
are you sinking?
Thanks for
You
that.
hang out when
Ukraine's president today completed a 3-day tour of Europe and received new military and political support. Nick Schifrin reports.
In a 16th century English manor, 1,500 miles from Kyiv, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak today gave Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky more military support and a historical blessing.
Winston Churchill made many of his famous speeches in World War II from this room. And in the same way today, your leadership, your country's bravery and fortitude are an inspiration to us all.
The UK will now send Ukraine long-range attack drones, in addition to air-launched cruise missiles with a range of 150 miles. That's almost exactly the same range as the American long-range missile that the Biden administration has so far refused to provide.
Thank you very much for it. But they are great, huge, really what can save the lives for all of you.
Last night, Zelensky met French President Emmanuel Macron in Paris. Following a weekend audience with the Pope, public support from Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni.
So who do you hang out with when it's not there?
And an unprecedented military package from
Like
German
during
Chancellor
recess.
Olaf Scholz, and a message designed to end doubt
You play
and
zombies?
commitment to Kyiv.
Who's on the zombie
We will
team?
support Ukraine as long as it is necessary.
You don't do zombies anymore?
Play different.
What's the different one? Huh?
Jennifer Caparella is a national security fellow at the DC think tank Institute for the Study of War. She says British weapons that will expand
Why
Ukraine's
is this
Western
a hard
weapons range
question?
will allow Kyiv to target Russian supply lines,
Mostly
including
play
the
with
Crimea.
Owen.
They need to be able to apply pressure now through long range.
Like Owen wasn't there today. What did you do?
That can degrade and disrupt the Russian capacity
Saw
to
me
respond
on
to
the
the
playground.
counteroffensive when it is
I know.
needed. And they need to start retaking terrain that the Russians
you
already
hang out,
used
like-
for ground resupply. And the kinds of targets
Body,
the
body.
Ukrainians could choose to go
Body,
after
body.
are threatening the Russian ground supply lines into Crimea.
In private, Zelensky has reportedly wanted to go even further. An intelligence community leak reported by the Washington
Who was
Post
the
says
person
Zelensky
on the
advocated for attacking
swings
inside
with?
Russia and even occupying Russian territory. He's promised not to do that with Western weapons, a vow he repeated this weekend.
Huh?
We are concentrated on preparing the counteroffensive to
Calvin!
occupy only our territory.
Who was the person on the swings with you?
Even ahead of that
Addy?
counteroffensive, Ukraine says
play
it
with
made its
Addy?
first advances in
Yeah.
6 months in Bakhmut,
Who else you play
the war's
with?
longest and bloodiest battle. In another U.S.
play with
intelligence
Clayton?
community assessment reported in the Washington Post,
You
Yevgeny
play with
Prigozhin,
Mikey?
leader of the mercenary
No.
Wagner group, offered
You
Kyiv
play
targeted
with-
assistance for Russian
is it just
positions
Owen and
in
Addy?
exchange for giving up Bakhmut.
Okay.
Today,
Pero
Prigozhin
Miss
denied
Leader
it,
and
but for the
not
first time, he has personally called out
Guinea
Vladimir
pig.
Putin.
Yeah, was that a guinea pig or a dog?
And
What?
into desperation,
You're drawing.
Prigozhin is crossing
Does it
new lines.
look like a
This
bunny?
shows further descent
In the hallway.
Does
But
it
Ukraine
look
continues
with
to fight
long
an existential
ears?
war.
It
one
had
that,
long
thanks to
ears.
its European visit,
Wait,
has
was
more
it on the
support
left
on the
or
way.
the right?
It was on the very front by the door. Bottom,
Turkey's
At
presidential
the
election
first-
is headed
very
to
first
Iran.
one.
Incumbent President Recep Tayyip Erdogan pulled
Was
ahead
it
of his main challenger,
right or left?
Right underneath the Owen.
an outright majority of votes.
You can see my name on there?
Turkish
Yes.
politics for 2 decades, and he
it
remained
was a bunny.
confident at a rally in
It was a
Ankara.
bunny?
Yeah.
Did you want a bunny?
The fact that the election has not been finalized does not change the fact that our
Oh, was
nation's
it for
choice is
Easter?
clearly in our favor. We
Yeah.
believe we will
Okay.
serve our nation for the next 5 years.
Erdogan outperformed polls that had shown his grip on the nation slipping amid high inflation, an ongoing housing crisis, and February's devastating earthquakes. The runoff election is set for May 28th. A powerful cyclone in Myanmar has claimed the lives of at least 6 people and injured 700 others. Rescuers evacuated about 1,000 people today who were trapped by 12 feet of seawater along the country's western coast. The storm damaged homes and cut power lines across Rakhine State after making landfall Sunday afternoon. Neighboring Bangladesh was spared a predicted direct hit, but hundreds of makeshift shelters were still torn apart. A court in China sentenced a 78-year-old American citizen to life in prison on spying charges. It's a case that could widen the rift between Washington and Beijing. Hong Kong resident John Xinguang Liyun was detained in China in 2021, but details of his case haven't been released. The U.S. Embassy in Beijing said it was aware of the charges, but had no further comment.
Say it again.
In Thailand, top opposition parties
Say it again.
agreed to form a ruling
dangerous,
coalition
a
after they
word.
received the
Dangerous.
majority of seats in the House of Representatives
Dangerous.
in Sunday's federal election.
Dangerous.
Today, the Progressive Move
Yeah.
Forward Party took a
Dangerous.
victory
Yeah.
lap
I
through
don't
the
think so.
streets of Bangkok. Headed by a 42-year-old
I wish
businessman,
it was a
their
word.
electoral win dealt a stunning defeat to Thailand's military rulers.
It's the sentiment of the era.
Are you still working?
Yes, I am. I'm trying to get dinner ready. Why?
Member of Parliament is to speak on
Nothing.
behalf of people. Is to pass progressive law. Is to make sure that we support the duty of the government.
Thailand's Prime Minister, former General Prayut Chan-o-cha, has been in power since a 2014 military coup. The opposition alliance could face challenges as it navigates the military-backed establishment when Parliament selects a new Prime Minister in July. Back in this country, Virginia Democratic Congressman Jerry Connolly says a man armed with a metal baseball bat attacked 2 staff members at his district office in Fairfax. Connolly was not in the office at the time. The suspect was taken into custody and
If I have
suspects
to
of being
bring a
treated
poster
for
home,
life-threatening injury.
and I need to carry it, will you allow
Connolly
me
said,
to carry
quote,
it?
"The thought that someone
Oh,
would take
try, yeah.
advantage
Because
of my
it's a
staff's
big one, and
accessibility
my
to
backpack
commit
is
an
not
act of
bigger.
violence is unconscionable and devastating." And stocks managed modest gains on Wall Street today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was up 48 points to close at 33,349. The NASDAQ rose 80 points, and the S&P 500 added 12. Still to come on the News Hour, a veto by North Carolina's governor sets up a battle over abortion rights. Senator Amy Klobuchar talks about her new memoir on the ups and downs of political life. A look inside the American Museum of Natural History's stunning new expansion, plus much more.
This is the PBS NewsHour from WETA Studios in Washington and in the West from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State University.
There is a lot happening at the state level this week, with a handful of primary races heating up and action on abortion laws happening across the country. Kentucky and Pennsylvania both have key primary races underway, one for a governor's race and another for the state Supreme Court. Meanwhile, in North Carolina, a Democratic governor squares off with a Republican legislature over a 12-week abortion ban. To unpack the specifics in each state, we're going to check in with a few state reporters. We'll start in North Carolina, where WUNC's Capitol Bureau Chief Colin Campbell has been reporting on this back and forth on this controversial abortion measure. Colin, thank you so much for being here. So tell us about this bill that Governor Roy Cooper vetoed this weekend. What did that bill do?
So the top line of it, of course, is that it's a ban on most abortions after 12 weeks. There's still exceptions after that point for things like rape, the life of the mother, and fetal abnormalities. Some of those exceptions expire a little bit further into the pregnancy time frame. There's also some new notification requirements, new requirements for in-person doctor's visits that critics are saying it's going to make it harder for women who are actually seeking abortion in the first trimester to be able to actually go through the process, particularly if they're in rural areas or it's hard for them to get to the doctor for one reason or another. So that's sort of the bulk of it. They've also paired in some unrelated things like paid parental leave and funding for foster families into this larger bill that's going through the legislature here in North Carolina.
So Governor Cooper made his veto this weekend in a very public way at a rally this weekend. It seems like there's some clear messaging implied with that.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a situation where there's not a whole lot of likelihood that the governor can convince Republicans to break with their party and sustain his veto here. But certainly thousands showed up to this rally. It had a very political undertone looking ahead to next year's election. Certainly Democrats in North Carolina feel like this is an issue that can fire up their base and potentially help them flip some seats in the legislature to their party and keep the governor's mansion in Democratic hands coming to 2024.
So does the GOP supermajority in the legislature have the votes to override this veto?
Yeah, they have just a very narrow majority, thanks in part to a particular Democrat who switched parties, became a Republican, and ultimately voted for this bill the first time around. So as long as everybody sticks with how they voted the first time this bill was passed by the legislature, that should be overridden. Votes are scheduled to take place in both the House and Senate tomorrow, Tuesday, so we could see this bill becoming law within the next couple days here in North Carolina and then taking effect with new restrictions in July.
So what does that mean? My understanding is that North Carolina, let's just say this law goes into effect. I know that North Carolina has been having a lot of women from neighboring states that do have stricter abortion bans in place coming to North Carolina. This would seem to put North Carolina off the map for that as well.
And I think that's something that Republicans are actually thinking of as they created this particular law. Certainly, if you're coming from another state and you have to make multiple doctor's visits, even if you are seeking abortion prior to 12 weeks, that makes it harder for someone who's coming across from Tennessee to come into North Carolina multiple times to jump through the hoops to get the procedure. So that may make North Carolina less attractive as a destination for people coming from other southern states that have stricter bans, even as it's still less strict here than in other states around us from further south that have more 6-week or other types of abortion bans on the books. So we may see some of that. It may not be as great, and some folks may have to drive further north to be able to get a quick and easy to access abortion procedure.
All right, Colin Campbell of WUNC, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Turning now to Kentucky, Republican voters will head there to the polls tomorrow in one of the nation's most contested races of the year. Kentucky is just one of 3 states with gubernatorial elections this cycle, along with Louisiana and Mississippi. But with Democrat Andy Beshear currently in the governor's mansion, the GOP is looking to secure all levers of the government in that state. Rylan Barton from Kentucky Public Radio joins us now. Ryland, thank you so much for being here. A bunch of Republicans want to get in and get this nomination to go after Governor Beshear. What are the main issues that voters are talking about now?
I mean, one of the big issues is the fact that Andy Beshear, a Democrat, is governor in such a Republican state as Kentucky has become in recent years. Republicans really feel like this is their chance to topple him during the general election in November. And so there's a long line, about 12 Republicans have lined up for the chance of the nomination. 3 main contenders so far. A lot of the arguments during the race have focused on some of the hot-button national issues that we've seen across the country and Congress even. A lot of anti-trans messaging and leading to anti-trans policies that were passed during the Kentucky's legislative session earlier this year, and really accusing one another of being the most liberal or so-called woke candidate within the Republican primary. So it's gotten a little nasty towards the end of the race here. A lot of mudslinging going on, and a couple of candidates trying to capitalize on not giving into that fight too.
And who are those top candidates?
So there's Daniel Cameron. He's the Republican Attorney General. He's been in office for 4 years, and he's the one who's endorsed by former President Donald Trump. And then there's Kelly Craft, former ambassador to the United Nations during the Trump administration. She was a prolific fundraiser in Republican politics in Kentucky. And I think it's notable that towards the end of this race, they've been accusing each other of being the most, who's the less establishment candidate. Kelly Craft going after Daniel Cameron for being a protege of Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. And so again, during the primary, there's this different kind of language going on as to who can be the most conservative. We'll have to pivot a little bit for the general election, but right now it's gotten very interesting. A lot of money's already been spent.
Now, this is an off-year election, so there's not a lot of other big races and big names in the ticket to draw voters. Do you think that that's going to have a big impact on turnout?
It really will, and there's the long history of this, because this always happens in these odd number of years. So, Secretary of State's predicting about 10% voter turnout back in 2015. Last time there was a crowded Republican primary, it was about 13%. And the winner in that race, Matt Bevin, ultimately won that race by about 83 votes. And that was really attributed to the top 2 candidates getting into a big fight where voters kind of soured on them. And it created a lane for that third-place candidate to win. So a lot of people are watching the results with some trepidation because it really could kind of go any way because of the low voter turnout expected.
All right, Ryland Barton of Kentucky Public Radio, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Moving over to Pennsylvania now, which holds primary elections tomorrow. Voters from both parties will choose their nominees to run to fill a seat on the state's Supreme Court. The 7-member court currently consists of 4 Democrats and 2 Republicans with 1 vacant seat. One candidate vying for the Republican nomination is Judge Patricia McCullough, who gained notoriety for approving former President Trump's attempts to halt the certification of Pennsylvania's election results back in 2020. Following this all closely is Katie Meyer. She's the government editor and reporter with the investigative newsroom Spotlight PA. Katie, thank you so much for being here. So, Democrats and Republicans are picking their candidate to run for this seat. What is the state of the race there right now?
Well, there isn't a lot of polling in these races, and so really the best sense that we can get is from spending, from fundraising these candidates have been able to do. And in the Republican side of this race, it's been pretty lopsided. Carolyn Carluccio, who's the sort of establishment pick for the seat, has far outweighs Patricia McCullough. Carluccio's gotten money from, again, Republican top donors, the establishment, politicians who are already in power, as well as from major school choice donors. McCullough, the biggest part of her fundraising has really come from Doug Mastriano, who is the former Pennsylvania candidate for governor who lost last year. And he was a pretty far-right candidate, and he was very entrenched in this sort of stop-the-steal election results denying movement in 2020. And so they're closely linked, those 2.
So, Judge McCullough, as you mentioned, is part of that stop-the-steal movement. We saw certainly that former President Donald Trump has continued, despite all evidence to the contrary, claiming that the 2020 election was stolen from him. Is there a sense that GOP voters in Pennsylvania are still motivated by that story?
Well, we did see some evidence that that's not a huge motivating factor for Republicans in last year's election. Doug Mastriano the candidate who had won the GOP nominee, but he won the primary, so that does tell you something, but he badly lost the general election to Josh Shapiro, the Democrat who is governor now. So I think that gives you a sense, again, of how general election voters in Pennsylvania feel about that, and certainly Republican leaders in the state have taken lessons from that. They've really put a lot of effort into boosting Carluccio, who they think has a better shot of winning the general election in Pennsylvania. And Camilla hasn't gotten a lot of traction among her own party's establishment. Now, that doesn't mean primary voters won't go for it, but again, she hasn't raised or spent much.
So how much of this does really matter? I mean, we know that, for instance, there was incredible focus on the state Supreme Court race in Wisconsin, but in this case, the Democrats already have a majority, even if a Republican were to win, even if McCullough were to win. How relevant is that for the court?
It is relevant just because in a couple of years there will be more seats up on this court, and then Republicans would be in striking distance, especially if they win this year's election, to taking the court back. And in Pennsylvania, the courts are pretty partisan, and specifically, they often have a huge role to play in choosing congressional maps when we redistrict, in resolving vagaries in election law, because Pennsylvania's election law does have a lot of gray areas, so deciding which ballots can be counted if these issues aren't resolved. The courts will have a big role in that. So I would say, these justices will say that they're not very partisan, and indeed they're not supposed to be, but, people do view these races as partisan, so I think that tells you something. So, absolutely, these elections, especially a few years down the line, will have great effect.
All right, Katie Meyer of Spotlight PA, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It's been almost 2 months since the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Russian President Vladimir Putin and the official in charge of Moscow's campaign of stealing children from Ukraine. Kyiv is demanding more international support to pursue Russian leadership. Nick Schifrin spoke with the top Biden administration official who's responsible for global criminal justice about her efforts, the roadblocks within the American government, and the chances of holding Putin and his high command accountable.
In this war, death comes at night, as an apartment complex slept last month. Death comes en masse as Russia stole dignity from the dead and reduced cities to rubble. And the killers are also thieves. Kidnapped Ukrainian children are paraded in Moscow, forced to hug their abductors.
This is a manifest violation of the UN Charter that has led to systemic war crimes, crimes against humanity across all areas where Russia's troops are deployed.
Beth Van Scott is the U.S. Ambassador at Large for Global Criminal Justice.
We need to send a strong, concerted, unified international message that one cannot simply invade a sovereign neighbor in an effort to subjugate that neighbor and wipe them off the face of the planet.
The International Criminal Court has issued 2 warrants of arrest.
The most prominent mechanism of justice is in The Hague at the ICC, which in March issued arrest warrants for war crimes allegedly committed by Russian President Vladimir Putin and his so-called Commissioner for Children's Rights.
Systematically practice torture and rape.
And Ukraine's Prosecutor General leading the country's own pursuit of close to 80,000 cases of war crimes committed by Russian soldiers in Ukraine. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky wants Russia's leadership to be punished for its initial decision to wage war.
Only one institution is capable of responding to the original crime, the crime of aggression. A tribunal.
The crime of aggression was created in the Nuremberg and Tokyo military tribunals after World War II for Nazi and Japanese leaders and hasn't been prosecuted by an international court since. The ICC cannot pursue an aggression charge against Russian leadership because Russia is not an ICC member. So today, Ukraine demands a special tribunal that could pursue Putin, authorized by the UN General Assembly.
Not some compromise that will allow politicians to say that the case is allegedly done, but a true, we need true, full-fledged tribunal, true and full justice.
That's direct criticism of a U.S. and Western European proposal, The Ukrainian court, supported by international staff, money, and intelligence, with no UN authorization.
The concern is that we don't have access to the Security Council here. Of course, Russia will predictably exercise its veto on any effort to create a standalone tribunal. And in the past, tribunals have generally been established by the Security Council. And there are questions about whether the UN Charter empowers the General Assembly to do that.
Wouldn't the court that you're proposing operate under Ukrainian law and therefore be stuck with the rule that a national court cannot go after the head of state of another country?
The vision is a court that is deeply rooted in Ukrainian national system. They will be starting to build dossiers against all of those individuals in a leadership capacity who were in a position to design, execute the crimes of aggression committed within Ukraine. And this tribunal could then accept those indictments when the time was right to confirm those charges.
Does that suggest that regardless of the format, you don't see any accountability for Putin himself until he's out of power?
Under any scenario, we're going to have custody of the accused of Putin in order to move forward, and that's exceedingly unlikely until there's some sort of a political transformation into Russia.
The U.S. also has a practical problem. Many countries in the global south wouldn't vote to establish a tribunal, in part because they accuse the U.S. of double standards for refusing to submit to ICC investigations over the American wars in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Is Ukraine really interested, for obvious reasons, to have the international community backing this effort, backing this initiative wholeheartedly, to come out of the General Assembly resolution with a weaker vote than 90 or 80 states in training? Would be problematic. I think that would really undercut the message of legitimacy.
Department of Justice has been great. The Department of Defense has been terrible.
There's another way for the U.S. to pursue justice, help the ICC. Late last year, Senate Judiciary Committee leaders, ranking member Republican Lindsey Graham and Chair Democrat Dick Durbin helped lead an effort to change the law to allow the U.S., which isn't an ICC member, to provide the ICC with intelligence, funding, and staffing for its Ukraine investigations.
Why hasn't the administration done that?
We are still exploring how we can utilize these new authorities from Congress. It's still a matter of working through some of the details through interagency process.
Multiple U.S. officials tell PBS NewsHour the Defense Department rejects helping the ICC hold Russian soldiers accountable and fear the ICC will one-day prosecute
It means they like you.
The officials say the intelligence community has dropped its own previous concerns. Last week, after a meeting with ICC Prosecutor General Karim Khan, Durbin accused the administration of, quote, withholding evidence from the ICC.
Why is your department not sharing the evidence that we have gathered to help that effort?
I do have concerns about reciprocity going forward. I remain concerned about the protection of U.S. military personnel.
I've got to ask for more, General. I respect you and voted for you and I do it again, but I've got to ask for more. If the law says cooperate and you refuse, what conclusion am I supposed to draw?
We support the goal of holding Russian.
I have to ask you to prove it. By doing so, you draw personal opposite conclusion, and I think it is, frankly, hurting the efforts of our people.
And last month, Graham raked Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monica over the coals for not complying with the new law.
I want to ask you again, is the Department of Defense the holdup?
Senator, I know the Department of Defense has had long-standing concerns about our engagement with the
I
Department.
don't care what the concerns are. They can share them with me. You got a law on the books. Do you feel like you need to follow the law when you're told to do it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll take this up at the Department of Defense.
Should the Department of Defense be worried about future prosecutions if it drops its resistance?
I think there is virtually no equivalency or comparison to what Russia has done here to anything that might involve U.S. service members. We have a full-scale war of aggression. We committed to the
Probably not his family jewels.
There's no comparison here, and so I do not see a concern that this would set any sort of a precedent that might go down badly to the United States.
So the debate over ICC assistance and the special tribunal continues as Ukraine demands accountability and justice for Russia's ongoing crimes. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Nick Schultz.
Okay, let's see what this fucking does.
Throughout the pandemic, Asian Americans have endured racist and physical threats. And as the U.S. celebrates Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, new research is calling attention to this rise in anti-Asian sentiment and the toll that it's taking on Asian American communities. Amina Vaz spoke recently with the head of the Asian American Foundation.
You what?
1 in 2 Asian Americans report feeling unsafe in the U.S. due to their ethnicity. That's according to a new report from the Asian American Foundation examining attitudes and stereotypes toward Asian Americans. Among the findings, nearly 80% of Asian Americans do not feel they fully belong and are accepted, while more than half don't feel safe in public places, a national survey found. What's more, nearly 1 in 5 Americans believe Asian Americans are partly responsible for COVID-19. Norman Chen is the CEO of the Asian American Foundation. Welcome to the new chapter.
Mom, why are you responsible for COVID-19?
So these were findings from your third annual survey of Asian Americans. What have you seen?
There's a little fire right there.
Or worse?
I know.
They've been largely consistent
Are
over the
you
last 2 years
feeling the whole
now.
house?
We've seen more
Whole country?
increasing concern during COVID about attacks against our community,
Well, you
blaming
need
of
a
Asian
ton
Americans
of that.
for COVID-19.
Like
This is the latest question
or
that
a billion of that.
really disturbed us. The fact that
Then you would
over
have
half
to
of
get
Asian
a
Americans
billion
felt unsafe. They felt
boxes
unsafe
of
in
them.
public transportation, on subways. They felt unsafe in their own neighborhoods, in their own schools, and their own workplaces.
California
So that was very concerning for all of us.
How much of that do you
No, this
think
is
relating
national.
to the pandemic? I remember reporting
Everywhere.
on this
Yeah.
surge of
In
anti-Asian rhetoric,
Yes.
the subsequent surge of anti-Asian attacks. I remember friends telling me they wouldn't let their parents, their auntie, their uncles go walking alone because they were so worried about random attacks. Has that fear dissipated at all as we moved out of the pandemic?
I think a lot of it
How many
was
days
due
you
to
must
the
stay that day?
COVID-19 and the pandemic, but also because just the fact that Asian Americans
Oh,
have been
They
feeling
cannot
today,
attacked
yesterday, and today.
for
They cannot
decades.
wash
And
my
then they'll be
hands.
back on Thursday.
And this
They
year's
cannot
really
wash
got
my
us
Thursday,
hands.
Friday,
of
Saturday.
those three
Daddy,
stereotypes
can
of
I
the
wash my
perpetual
hands?
foreigner,
Yeah.
yellow peril, and mono minority myth really reared their ugly heads in the results. And so this is not just a phenomenon due to COVID-19.
What about the pants?
It's
Why
really
would I
been
get
something
water
that's been
in
on history
there?
for a long time.
Good.
What was
We're done.
particularly new this year was
You're
about the
done?
belonging question. Last week was the first time we asked, how much do you really feel like you truly belong in this country? And Asian Americans were the least likely to feel they truly belong.
Just gotta
And
heat
we
it
sure we
up.
understand more why. And they tell us they feel like they don't belong because of these attacks. There's a direct correlation between the incidence, the frequency of these attacks, and our community's lack of feeling that we truly belong. The second reason they mentioned was the lack of representation, lack of seeing role models, Asian Americans in senior leadership positions. So those are new insights that we want to work on.
That feeling of not
What?
belonging, of not
Guinea
feeling
pigs
safe. What kind of
exercise?
impact does that have in terms of how people live and their mental health and well-being?
That's tremendous negative impact. You know, if you don't feel
What?
like you are safe, you don't feel like you can belong, you never have Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you
I'm
cannot
a
thrive, you cannot succeed,
monkey.
you cannot be respected by others. So it's fundamental that we believe that we belong and that we feel
I'm a
safe.
monkey.
And this really has a damaging effect on mental health for our community.
Yeah, you
Mental
can
health
see
is
them.
a significant problem for the API community as for other communities. And we have the terrible statistic
What is
that
it?
among
Tell me.
API youth, ages 15 to 24, suicide is the leading cause of death. And our group is leading that, unfortunately.
I mean, as you know, anti-Asian sentiment goes back to the earliest days of our nation. The very first significant law restricting immigration in America was targeting the Chinese people. We had the nation incarcerated hundreds of thousands of Japanese Americans during World War II. Is what we're seeing now just the latest chapter in that ongoing story?
We are seeing a recurrence of it in many ways, but unfortunately, unique to this time. The recent attacks we've seen in Atlanta, and even in Allen, Texas, make us really concerned about increasing anti-Asian sentiment in this country. The rhetoric in media, among politicians, has led to more anti-China sentiment, which leads to anti-Asian American sentiment. And we need to be very careful to manage that and make sure we don't inflame tensions and antagonism towards our community.
At the same time, I want to point out your survey found 75% of Americans said that they see these racist attacks against Asian Americans as a problem today. So there is awareness, there is acknowledgement. Is that progress?
Yeah, there are some signs of progress in our survey this year. Besides that awareness, a lot of people in our survey, when we asked them what we can do to try to help build relations with the AAPI community, number one answer was greater interaction. So that was very encouraging. People are open to having more interaction, getting to know AAPI members better, which is wonderful. The second answer was education, which we've known is always very, very important. So we do want to promote more knowledge of Asian American and Pacific Islander history as American history.
Norman Chen is the CEO of the Asian American Foundation. Norman, great to speak with you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Anna.
With so much partisan political division in our country, joy is not a word typically associated with politics. But it is for Minnesota's senior senator, Amy Klobuchar. She recently explained to Jeff Bennett it's the topic of her new book, The Joy of Politics. Senator Amy Klobuchar, welcome to the NewsHour.
Thank you, Jeff. It's great. Is at Connolly's district office where the attack took place. This is truly terrifying, right? You're in a suburban, quiet, normal office environment. To imagine something like this, it does defy the imagination. What more are you learning tonight?
Yeah, and happened just behind me, Aaron. And tonight our team actually caught up with the suspect's father. He said that the suspect has been suffering from schizophrenia. He hasn't taken his medication in the past 3 months. Plus, our team learned that just last year, this suspect was actually arrested for assaulting a law enforcement officer. Charges, though, were ultimately dropped. Tonight, though, that suspect is being held without bond, so authorities have released his name. He's 49-year-old Juan Patran Pham. And authorities say just before 11 o'clock, he went into this district office of Congressman Jerry Connolly. He attacked with a metal bat 2 staffers. One was a senior aide who was hit in the head. One was actually an intern, and this was her first day on the job. They both went to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Now, as for the congressman, he was at an event, a retail event. He wasn't here, but he did say that this was a race.
No, he was the one who the congressman whose office had it.
Conference room broke several computers, and tonight that suspect is being held without bond.
So, Jessica, this comes 7 months, just about, after then Speaker Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, was brutally attacked, right, by that assailant broke into his home. Have Capitol Police said anything tonight about ensuring the security of lawmakers? Others of them have faced threats and attacks as well.
Yeah, there have been several attacks. So U.S. Capitol Police, they're launching a joint investigation with Fairfax City Police, but they're using this as well to really highlight the threats against lawmakers and staffers, and they're putting it this way, they're saying that the threats have actually grown exponentially.
Well, they'll definitely land them in separate bedrooms. You still on that? Get a life.
Live your best day every day with the power of the Jump Fresh Spirit.
It's all this week. I want everybody right now to freak out, freak out. The macho man is right here. Oh, yeah. You don't question this guy's intestinal authority. Macho Man was such an amazing superstar because he just embodied that character. The character he became was one of the greatest of all time. Being the greatest king in the world wrestling federation ever. Talking on the mic, being in the ring, from the top rope. Macho brought it in every way. He was a spectacle. The glasses, the hats, the fringe. He was a peacock. He was a shining star. He was always on 24/7. So every time I wake up in the morning, I'm the World Wrestling Federation champion. You're not. His intensity, his promos, and you go back, listen to the promos he did. But the Queen. The way his energy came across
Two times.
through the camera.
Was that yours?
He was all about being
Yeah.
totally in your face.
That's a bunny?
Special, one of a kind, unique, and different, and very, very cool.
See your
He is that
picture of the
so intense.
At the bulletin board.
Literally changed my life.
You brought it back
An
on?
amazing athlete.
You left it there?
That each
accidentally
match
died.
meant something with a story behind it.
it's a picture back with the type. She have all the nitty-gritty there.
Went out and made those fans.
She got a guinea. A bird.
Guinea chicken.
It's a
Those
bird.
stupid looking chickens that the lady has.
The ano, is that what is it? Oh, really like that?
95% of the most iconic items used to create those memorable moments have gone missing.
Aaron, you guys are looking for some treasure.
Would you consider parting with it?
I can't believe you even asked that question.
I'm gonna make it.
So I'm sitting up the greatest WWE legends ever. That's it.
On a hunt to find the lost treasure.
What incredible items that it's There he is, Dallas Payne, the three-time world heavyweight champion, the two-time United States champion, the four-time world tag team champion, and the 2017 Hall of Fame inductee. My man, Dallas Payne. How you doing, man?
I have not eaten the
I had to bring you in right now because I'm looking for some of the most iconic memorabilia of one of the biggest stars that ever laced up a pair of boots in this business. And that man is the Macho Man Randy Savage.
I will put the thing on your face.
I mean, he wasn't no bigger than 5'11", but you swear he was 6'3". You know, there's the way he walked with the hats on his toes, but he was bigger than life, man. He really was 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And the feud with Randy made me. But for him to put me over, that first pay-per-view, and it changed my life dramatically. It was an iconic year, but it never would have happened without Macho. Because he died way too early. You know,
He died that?
Oh, yeah.
he is the James Dean of professional wrestling.
Like, how old?
When Randy
62.
passed on, there was 5 matches in the WWE put up there.
He had a
with
heart
feuds. Of
attack.
course, one's the Mega Powers.
While
The next is Hulk
wrestling?
and Randy. The next was Jake the Snake Roberts.
That is him, no?
And then Steamboat and me. To be on that elite group of guys of some of the greatest feuds, well, it was a real honor for me. What a hell of a ride, man. But what iconic memorabilia do you think he would want in his collection? You know, to signify the Macho Man Randy Savage. You know you're really over, like, bigger than wrestling when they do monster trucks that are made to look like the exaggerated over-the-top, you know, wrestling performer. You're a different level. Just let you know how big of a star he was at that time. Now, count on one hand how many guys that had monster trucks. And I think that would be such a hard find. But I think the thing that stands out the most, you know, when he is the Macho King, just completely reinvented himself. And I proclaim you Macho King, Randy Savage. Being that crown and the scepter that the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and his brother Lanny gave him. Like, being able to find those things, that would really be super special. You know, I always looked at Macho Man Savage as being a special talent, but I don't think it would be a Hulk Hogan if it wasn't for Macho Man Savage. The greatest tandem perhaps ever in the history of the business. The Mega Powers era was huge. Something from that era would definitely be something great. Anything that those guys did together, from tagging and being best friends to worst enemies. You got two dynamic egos, like upper stratosphere. What about the Mega Powers room? That would be number one for me. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, people were glued to the TVs, and sticking Randy and Hulk together was magical. I have Rita, I have Mick Foley. I just want you to consider being a part of my team. Would you be willing to, take a road trip and go out on the road and find some of those iconic Macho Man, Randy Savage memorabilia? It was great catching up with Booker, and I've been to go on this quest, bro. Hooked up with you. Because you have the personal history with Macho Man, and you shared with me one time, and you give Savage a call at Thanksgiving to let him know how much you meant to your career. So I leave him that because he never answered his phone. And I said, I don't know if you know that I know much, but it's not lost on me, bro, that I'm not living this life. Like, dude, you changed my life, and I'll never do it. So I'm talking about it right now. I'll never forget it. And I just, happy Thanksgiving. And I hung up. Now it gets the TV. And then I see Randy. And when he sees me, he gets that tape. And he starts walking like, Diamond, come here. He says, I got your message. Here. He said, I just want you to know it meant a lot. And he hugged me around my feet. Man, it was so surreal. What a great memory to have. We're going to Dr. Marty's house. I believe he's got items from every top WWE superstar, and I'm hoping the original crown and scepter. This is awesome. When I watched Macho Man portray the Macho King, I thought it was awesome. Macho has style and grace as king. Oh yeah, history Randy owned being the Macho King because he truly believed he was the king. So just call me Macho King and let it be it. One of the things that's amazing to me about Randy is you think he's gone as far as he possibly can, and that's where, to me, that Macho King comes in.
Correct, and then they'll be back on Thursday. She has to stay tomorrow because she has to get his hand cast, the exam, and make sure that it's set straight. He broke his hand.
And he makes it
punching the thing.
Mean something, and he enters the next phase of his career. But this time around, I guess he felt like he was going to take that victory literally. What do you think?
All be back Thursday.
At least $10,000. I'd say. Makes me wish I had more predominance in the ring.
Did you put their bed?
Huh?
Did you put their bed?
Okay, here we go. Dr. Marty, how are you? Nice to meet you. How you doing, Dr. Marty? Down in Dallas Page. I'm glad to meet you. Okay, glad to meet you too. How you guys doing? Come on in, guys. I heard rumor about this. It's all true. What? Dude, oh my goodness. I was super excited that Mick Foley and DDP were in my house today. They're two legends, and I was touched by WWE, particularly Macho Man Randy Savage back in the 80s. It was an entire part of my childhood. Let's go this way. Let's go. I'm in a serious place. DDP, this is Macho tickets. These are all worn by Randy in matches. The cool stuff, though, I keep in my bedroom. In the bedroom.
Randy Macho
my mom's adage. He means so much to me. We all remember the giant impact that giant monster truck. We did anything.
New Jersey? Yes, sir. New Jersey. This was in 1971 Rookie League jersey for the Sarasota Cardinals. Randy was cut by the Cardinals and cut by the Reds and then also cut by the White Sox.
It took that hard. That was his dream.
Yeah.
I was shocked when I first heard that Randy was, a professional baseball player and that was his real love. Randy's an excellent baseball player. He was within a whisper of having a major league career. And Randy, being such an incredibly proud and determined young man, was hurt when that road came to an end. And he found another path.
This robe is from like the mid-'80s. He wore this all the way to the mid to late '80s. And it's heavy. There you go. You guys stop it. No, listen, I'll take a picture of it.
There you go. Now we have the handful of this. I love the individual collectors. I think it's incredible that people would build these shrines to these superstars they grew up on. What else do we have over here?
This was worn by Macho Man when he got the snake bite from Guinea.
Oh, those are the best moments ever. Can't say robbers got Randy wrapped in the ropes. He doesn't get the snake. People crying, people are screaming. He's like, get the damn snake off him. He's like, I'm trying. There was nothing fake about that.
Randy did actually get sick afterwards. He spiked the fever 104.
Is that
the Macho Clown? Yes. That is the...
And the set... No, that's a couple more. Sorry.
Yes.
The Macho is written right in that. Is that the legit crown?
That's the legit crown. The Macho King crown to many collectors is considered the holy grail of collecting. It's a unique piece, and Randy did play a great Macho King.
Macho embodied the role as king, more so than anyone that worn the crown to that point.
I collected not only the crown, which took some time to find, which was the centerpiece, but I had Randy's actual entire Macho King set.
Where did you find this?
So this came through a collector, and I'll be honest with you, gentlemen, it takes years sometimes to get these pieces. You have to work with someone who's honest, and I happened to come across an honest collector, and who gave it up.
So where's the rest of this?
Just outside of the hallway. I'll show that to you.
Yeah, look.
This is the Macho King outfit. Again, it took some time to find this and put this together so the crown would go on top here.
He said it's the Macho King, and the greatest king in the World Wrestling Federation ever. As the Macho King, Randy truly believed he was the top guy. He took that as serious as possible because he wanted everybody to know, I'm going to be the king of this territory. Long live the king! Long live the king of the World Wrestling Federation! Who has that scepter?
I have no clue who has the scepter. I heard years ago that it was owned by a collector who would not give it up.
It's a shame that Dr. Marty does not have the scepter, but this crown and outfit signifies such an important part of the Macho Man's career. This crown, now, we have to have it looked at by Ben Brown. Sure, who's part of the archivist. Would you sell this as a set?
It took years to collect. To me, there's really no monetary value on it.
Then there's for the fans.
What I would be willing to do is make an arrangement or agreement to put these items on loan and have them displayed. I'd be more than happy to do that for you and the fans, for all you did for us. Having collected these items, which take years to do, I would love to display them as a set.
How generous.
because I can't put a price on that crown, and because it belongs as a set with the Macho King outfit, which I would not want to separate, I thought the best thing to do was to put it on loan to the WWE.
All right, bro. Twinkle in the eye. You just hurt the poor guy.
That is picture, but the one at the door, or Calvo. The one that said that Calvin is white.
When I hear
That
the name
is
Randy Martin,
Calvo.
I almost get like goosebumps or butterflies in my stomach.
He
He's
doesn't
so much
like
to me
it.
as a
Oh, is it
person.
a he
I
or
mean,
she?
he's the whole reason I
She
got
does
that big break in the industry.
monitoring of
You
lunch areas.
first met
She
Macho
said
Man.
she
You were
herself
still in the
liked
80s. Yeah.
I had started training for wrestling in the late
Was she
90s.
old?
Of course,
Yes.
hoping to make it big.
Short hair,
But-
this is mine.
In the independent scene of the Tampa Bay area, which is where Macho Man
Well,
was.
it was a wrestler. Yeah,
What's your
or hell, however you want to. Whatever you're saying.
I only lived in the Tampa Bay area, lots of wrestlers. So
What's your thing,
Macho Man
Chief?
had this new girlfriend named Gorgeous George.
Right.
And
They what color of her
to learn
short
some
dick?
wrestling moves. So Macho Man called me and asked me to teach his girlfriend to wrestle. And it was Macho Man who was the one who believed in me, that gave me the opportunity, and
Put
eventually
their
made
little
me to
head
live on
right
television.
next to her.
I couldn't
But
believe
they're
that
a little
just a few years
baby
prior, I
head
was watching all these icons on television, and then because of Macho Man, I got to be in the ring, in action.
All right, so I was talking with Ben Brown, and he was going over all the artifacts that we do have for Macho Man, but we didn't have sitting in the warehouse the big, giant monster truck.
Halloween Havoc 1996.
Someone knows their history.
It was all Macho Man. I mean, it was signature, big cowboy hat, Macho Man with the shades.
Both WWE and WCW have dabbled in monster trucks, but the Randy Savage, the Macho Man monster truck, having something like that to display would be an incredible get for the WWE archives.
We are hopefully leaving today with a monster truck. Are you going to drive it? I might.
I would like to volunteer.
We'll see what we can make happen.
I want that.
What in the hell did you get those
Myself was stone through a secret.
I'm on the wall.
I have received word that you wanted to see.
Yes, so this is super cool. The Macho King crown, which I will always say is my. I mean, this is the thing that I think. This and the scepter, pretty iconic. However, I fear that this might not be exactly the same as the one I'm seeing on video and in pictures. Take a look at this. This is from a photo shoot that WWE would have done in 1989 when the crown was made. You got the little rope detail around the edges that isn't there.
That's not there.
You have the actual macho, while here looks to be molded, but here they're screwed in.
Yeah.
And the big one is the size of the jewel. It's the size of the center jewel. You know, it's just a completely different scale. I want it to be real, but I wouldn't feel confident enough, based on kind of what we discussed, to put this out in front of fans and say, this is the Macho King crown. There is a slight possibility that this was used by the Macho Man. There are smaller loops, right? What we call house shows or live events. Macho Man could have worn this crown at a non-televised event. But I kind of doubt it. This is not the crown that we're looking for. So we're going to go ahead and send it back to Dr. Marty.
This is 100% legit, though, right?
This is definitely a macho king outfit. Okay. Ben, I appreciate your honesty. This did not work out as well as I hoped, but I'm hoping that Lita and Molly are having an easier time finding that monster truck. I would like to think there's no replicas of a macho man monster truck out, right?
This is a surprise.
It's Lita and Molly. Nice to meet you.
I'm Dan. Pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to meet both of you. What are you doing here? I opened my door today and saw Lita and Molly. I was in shock. Being a professional wrestling referee, I'm used to being around wrestlers, but not in a house.
We're on a mission about like a certain monster truck, Macho Man. I was hoping you were hiding it, or maybe you know something
All right,
about it.
let's take a walk over here. I'll show you what I have.
Okay.
We'll go from there. Okay.
All right, thanks.
Ready? Yeah. Here is not my monster truck, but take a look at this thing.
Wow. Look at this thing. Whoa.
So what you're looking at here isn't the monster truck.
It's the heart of the monster truck.
Right, you put this on top of a monster truck, and now you've got Macho Man Randy Savage's monster truck.
So not the monster truck itself, but this giant yellow cowboy hat that was on top of the monster truck gave me goosebumps seeing it in person. It's hard to get perspective on top of a monster truck, but this thing is like bigger than I thought it would be.
It even says macho right here.
The red and the black hasn't peeled off. It's been covered in another layer of yellow.
Oh, it's like spray painted over top of it.
So maybe if this was peeled off, it might still say macho, but it could be
Absolutely so. They wheeled this out at Halloween Havoc 1996. Big extravaganza. Took everybody's breath away. And I think that was the only time that they used that monster truck.
This Halloween Havoc match has two icons, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, and really, that's all you need. But no, they were not going to just leave it with two men in the ring. In this match, in particular, against
What? No, he's fine. He's fine.
Sorry.
You're fine, bud.
Like, you can have cheering where you're booing and then you're laughing. And the same match, the ball is coming out. The hair is getting ripped off.
Macho Man drops the big elbow when everyone knows and this match is over. Everyone counts. 1, 2. And then Nick Patrick, the referee, oh, my neck hurts. And it's like, what a great little dramatic twist to really draw the audience out of their seats.
How does this get on top of a monster truck in Las Vegas to your garage?
Great question. I was at the local thrift store. There was a giant yellow cowboy hat sitting outside. At the time, I had no idea what it was. So I go in and I talk to the lady, and we get to talking. Her next question blew my mind. Have you ever heard of Macho Man Randy Savage? She goes, yeah, that was on top of his monster truck. After a lot of back and forth and a lot of battling other local establishments for it, I was able to eventually secure it and bring it home and store it in my garage for a very long time.
I would just love if the fans could see this. If your wife could maybe be happy to be able to
Twisting my arm. I see. I'm ready to listen. So where are you, number-wise?
I was coming in at 2,500, but
I just said you.
It's hard to let stuff go if you're attached to it.
I feel you.
I'm really attached to this thing.
But your story with this would not be ending. It would be evolving. We're documenting your integral involvement in even the possibility of getting this back to the fans, which, I appreciate. The fact that you saw the value in this and this didn't end up in a landfill.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So, honestly, the only thing I'd be looking to get back would be $5,300. That is penny for penny exactly what I paid for it.
That's totally fair.
That's good.
You got a deal.
Thank you so much.
Yes, boom.
I feel really satisfied satisfied with the deal that we made. I think that once the fans look at this hat, they're going to be instantly transported
How
back to
much?
1996.
Okay.
And think about
5,300.
how much they loved Macho Man and how much joy
Correct.
that he brought to their matches. So I think it's going to put a lot of smiles on faces.
This stuff has basically been lost to time. No. National championship wrestling.
The stuff in Kentucky?
Yeah. Literally the birth of the Macho Man character on these things. These haven't been seen on national television ever.
Asking Ray.
New episode Tuesday at 10. On A&E.
Hey, man, what you got?
Something exceptionally cool here. These are tapes. ICW Pop-Up. National championship wrestling.
The stuff in Kentucky?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
The ICW Pop-Up tapes, a promotion that was run by Randy Savage's dad, Angelo, also a great wrestler in his day, and then he became a promoter in Kentucky. This was what they consider an outlaw promotion. It was running outside of the governing body of the NWA or any other governing body. This stuff, from all accounts, has basically been lost to time for the past 35 years. So here's the thing. I first of all have to figure out if it's what it says it is.
Okay.
Right? So, oil company called Caston Oil in Colorado. They loaned money to Angelo Papa, Randy's father, to start this promotion back in 1978. As collateral, he would return these tapes if he was unable to pay them back. Knock, knock, knock. 20 boxes of tapes from ICW Papa on the doorstep of Caston Oil. They put it in a storage locker and left it there for less, 35 years. If it looks like it's, salvageable, bring in Lanny, authenticate it. Literally the birth of the Macho Man character. Birth of one of the best and most over-the-top characters of all time are on these little tapes.
Wow. That's amazing.
I'm so happy that you're here.
Oh, well, I'm really excited to be here.
I knew I had to get you along on this journey. I'm specifically looking for the Mega Power Bill.
I watched during that time, and the Mega Powers was like imprinted in my brain as probably like the biggest thing happening in the mid-80s.
The Mega Powers were the two biggest single stars of their era, and when they joined forces, Mega Powers. Randy and Hulk together. First of all, you got two dynamic egos, like upper stratosphere.
There were no bigger stars in the 1980s. They were levels above everybody else.
As incredible as the Mega Powers were, they only had those 3 matches, but they pretty much made SummerSlam.
The very first SummerSlam is really the first time that we saw Macho Man and Hulk Hogan together as a team in action, and it delivered. Everybody was just in such awe at how their chemistry as a team, how they played off each other, and really how they could bring the industry to the next level.
This is something that our fans would love to see if we can secure this road. Be happy then.
It might take some serious negotiating for him to let it go.
Let it pop up.
Looking good, kid.
These haven't been seen on national television. Push play.
Oh, it just makes me so happy, and it chokes me up too. Wow. Wow, I have never seen this. Hello, Kevin. How you doing, my friend? Hall of Famer Day here. Come on in. Thank you.
There's Mick Foley and Molly Holly standing on my front steps, and my first reaction was, "Oh,
You're in my house. We have been sent here because we understand that you are a huge Macho Man fan.
that is correct, yes."
And we are specifically looking for something from the Mega Powers period.
And I have that. When I was about 16 years old, my father was very much involved in charities. He had a silent auction, and he placed the bid on the road and wound up obtaining the road. And when he bought that home, it was magic. Since then, it's been in my possession.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
We're going to try to talk you out of keeping it in your house. I understand, but we would love to take a look at it.
And I would love for you to see. I was a very big wrestling fan. It started at a young age, and Macho Man was one of my favorites, and I mean, everybody loved Hulk Hogan. At the time when they first met up with one another, I believe Randy Savage was the Intercontinental Champion, and Hulk Hogan was the World Wrestling Champion. So you're talking about two major figures coming together and creating something that was just more powerful than the locomotive, so to speak.
Okay, here. Wow. Look how brilliant that is. With the sunlight gleaming off the stones. Wow.
It's heavier than the trunk, believe it or not.
Wow.
Incredible.
When that trunk opened up and I saw that robe reveal, it was even more spectacular in person than on TV. The sparkles, the weight of it, the detail around the edges, I thought it was unbelievable.
And I believe it would look best on Molly Holly.
Oh, I would love to wear that.
Let me help you. Knowing how much Macho meant to your career.
Looks pretty authentic to me.
And the kicker on the inside, it's signed by Macho himself.
What?
Yes.
Oh, show me where.
Let me help you out here.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Not to mention the rarity. You know, Hulk Hogan and Macho Man were the biggest stars of that time. And they only wrestled 3 times. And this, as far as I know, was only won twice. And 2 of the biggest matches. 2 of the biggest matches of that era.
Kevin, this is something you would consider part for the right price.
Yes.
Do you have a price in mind?
There's more value to it than just money. It's very sentimental to me. My father gave this to me almost 30 years ago, and it's one of the last remaining items that I have of his that he had given to me. Back in 1988, when the Nugget was dissolved, the kid went up for auction. And during that silent auction, his robe was up for bid. My father won the bid, and subsequently after that, I won the robe. It was one of the best gifts I'd ever received in my entire life. It was really at the pinnacle of my watching wrestling and getting into the sport. So it was a dream come true. I was hoping maybe you could start the offer.
How would you feel about $5,000?
No way.
Too low.
Out of the question.
Out of the question.
I appreciate the offer.
$8,500.
Nope. How does $10,000 sound to you? Plus tickets for my wife and my kids and myself for inside seats at WrestleMania, people.
WrestleMania tickets get difficult to come by. Brings up, they go for about $2,500 a piece. So this is adding another $10,000 onto the $10,000. All right, you are going to WrestleMania. That is awesome. That is awesome.
I think my father would be absolutely proud for the way I handled myself and the way the offer went
Phenomenal.
My father was a family man. He really would have loved to see me and my children enjoy something as precious as WrestleMania. This is the best case scenario where you know it's going to have a great home, you make a few dollars, and you have an experience of a lifetime. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for your willingness.
I have moderate.
See that little girl in front of you?
Wow.
That's my daughter. Recently, she lost her favorite teddy bear.
Wow. Wow, I have never seen this.
Was this a fully formed Macho Man at this point?
Well, his beard was long and straggly, and I liked it better when it was well groomed. Because a lot of people out there don't understand who that athlete really is. This is something new for me. I am his biggest fan.
It just goes to show how hard this guy was willing to work to get on top of this business, and he did it through his talent and his talent alone. God, thank God!
The wrestling with an anthem.
Wrestling with an champion!
Before Randy was living, they were doubled as a studio. You see, we were cutting corners and doing what we could.
What?
He did it many years.
You deleted what?
Yes.
Something to say, man. Randy's philosophy of this business. He didn't think the match started with the bell. He thought it started when you open the locker room door and you go to the ring. That entrance was important. The entrance was more important than the match in his opinion. But then you had to live up to the entrance. Madison, Wisconsin, or Madison Square Garden. He gave everything he had to the fans, and nobody wanted their money back. It's been 11 years. And if anybody remembers my name, it'll be because of his. What I missed the most is how he showed his love. Nobody had a career quite like the Macho Man.
This is just the tip of the iceberg. Follow me, man. We got a whole lot more for you. Come check this out. Right here. This piece. Right here. I want to see how you feel when you check it out.
That's the handshake that changed the world.
How you like that?
That's something.
Let's take that.
Check it out.
Authenticate this. Not that I have any doubt. Pretty awesome. The rope.
You don't think this is a recreation or somebody tried to fabricate this?
Feel how heavy it is. As you can feel the workmanship in this. This is something special.
Yeah.
Autograph. Signature.
Oh, that's definitely him. And that's quite a signature he has.
Yeah. You mind trying it out?
I don't deserve to wear it, but I will.
Let's see what it looks like real quick. You gotta do it. You gotta do this. You gotta. Baby. Yeah. So, how does it feel? How does it feel just to put it on for me?
Mixed emotions.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful feeling, but I'm just not worthy.
I think Randy would approve. But are you ready for this next album?
It couldn't be better than this, but go ahead.
Let's bring it in, man. Come on. Look at that. You remember the monster truck, right?
I remember it.
Check it out. Look at that. Jack on it.
I just look at it and I say how important he was.
Takes you back, doesn't it?
Oh, it just makes me so happy, and it choked me up too. It was larger than life, just like his personality.
We'll try it on.
No, I think I'm not as strong as I look. So what? You keep topping yourself.
Can you imagine the fans being able to just have that moment, to have that photo taken, you know, with the big hat behind them. That's what's going to really be cool to have it restored to its original look. It's going to be something really, really cool also. So can't wait. I can't wait.
Macho Man was so special. He was king at embodying that larger than life spirit.
Watch me walk, watch me learn to giant body piper take the snake. And oh yeah, the World Wrestling Federation is one man. There's loyalty, and then he's the Macho King Randy Savage. I mean, the artistry of Macho Man, of the pageantry, the work that he put in to get to that point. Best showman that ever put on a pair of boots. He was a shining star. He was a king. More than anything, Randy Savage believed in himself.
Randy was not just a great man, but a good man too. It's a wonderful thing to have made such an impact.
My heart for believing in me and my wife and my family from day one as we resolved this egregious misconduct in this dark chapter in American history. So I'm ecstatic, and I still believe the volume against Congresspeople. Do the Capitol Police plan to change the way they do security for members in response to this latest attack, do you think? Well, I don't know about this specific attack, Manny, but I can tell you that this is something Capitol Police is very frustrated by. The incidents of threats...
all just miscellaneous things, Halloween decorations. There were some coins from her grandparents.
Like what you put in the bottom drawer of a bureau with personal stuff that you don't know what else to do with, right? Day after day searching the Shark River and its shoreline for food foodless. The local Crime Stoppers posted a $5,000 reward.
We had prepared some flyers seeking information in an effort to locate Sarah's whereabouts.
Volunteers are helping police today search for a beloved missing Neptune City teenager.
You know,
About those children.
The jury reached a verdict. Yes, the defendant of Guinea.
With Mother's Day. Washington, D.C.
tonight on Dateline, has there any sign at all that she misses her children?
It makes you wonder with Mother's Day coming up if there's any thoughts about those children.
The jury reached a verdict. Yes, the defendant of Guinea.
Just hours ago, the verdict in the notorious case of Doomsday Mom Lori Valor Daybell, charged in the murders of her own children, Tiny and JJ. Where are your kids? Now, new revelations.
Lori's sister, she's furious. I've got punch. The prosecution was able to show Chad and Lori were in a hurry to get these kids out of their way.
Mom, you didn't show me the from my book. I can't believe that is actually my mom.
She's destroyed so many people's lives.
Have you ever seen a thing like this case?
It didn't matter what obstacles she had to remove to get what she wanted.
This case defies description.
It's Judgment Day at last, and it's an unholy tale of love, power, and murder. I'm Lester Holt. This is Dateline. Here's Keith Morrison with The Trial of Lori Vallow Daybell. Here we are, at the climax of one of the most astonishing tales we have ever covered.
The defendants, Lori Vallow Daybell, used money, power, and threat to get what she wanted.
Yes, that's Lori Vallow. The mother of two Idaho children. Investigation against two missing Idaho children.
Coming out in opening statements of the murder trials of the so-called Doomsday Mom.
The woman whose story we've been unraveling since we tracked her down as she holidayed with her lover Chad Daybell in Hawaii, with deaths in their wake. 4 deaths in just 3 months. And then watched in March 2000.
2020,
as she was returned to Idaho in handcuffs. By then, perhaps the most infamous woman in the country. And now, it has been shocking. Here in the courtroom in Boise, Idaho, 3 years later, we have it. The full story of Lori Valadevo's imagined ascent to the ranks of the gods and her fall to earth. Told at her trial with revelations and proofs and private phone calls and never before seen video. Of a love affair cloaked in religion that produced death.
This relationship is built on a bunch of bizarre principles, but they both seem to be all in on it.
The lies she spewed to authorities. And her own family, all leading to the awful realization. Here, for a woman preoccupied with celestial judgment, was the judgment of 12 very human jurors.
As the jury reached a verdict.
But before we get to that, where to start? Maybe here. This is Lori Vallow as she chose to be seen. The attractive, fit Mrs. Texas contestant. The bright, charming mom who could handle anything life threw her way, even if that wasn't exactly true. She'd grown up in a big family, one of 5 siblings, steeped in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They were close. Baby sister Summer was devoted to Lori, as, especially later in life, was her brother Alex. Alex, the truck driver and amateur stand-up comedian. And, as some would come to call him, Lori's angel of death. Lori was 22 and already on her second husband when she had Colby.
What was it like to be with her as a little kid? She just made everything fun.
Colby Ryan adored his mom.
That type of person, that always had a lot of energy and got everybody else in the house excited.
But marriage number 2 didn't last either, and so it was just the 2 of them. That is, the 2 of them and Lori's beliefs.
Growing up, she's definitely mentioned the end of the world. Like, well, you know what? These things don't matter as much because the world's going to end.
Certainly, their world was not very stable. They moved a lot. Many apartments, schools, brief friendships. Colby's only constant was her.
I grew up being her little best friend. She was a single mom for a while before she had my little sister.
That was Tylee with husband number 3. Sweet Tylee. But that marriage ended too. The breakup as ugly as any breakup could be. Which made space for the man who helped her through her custody battles. Husband number 4, Charles Vallow.
He was super polite and kind of trying to take interest in me and Tylee. He seemed like he genuinely cared about us.
Cared deeply for Lori too. No one ever doubted that. Charles Vallow swept the family off to a postcard-worthy home in Hawaii, where, because Lori wanted him to, he joined the Church of Latter-day Saints, and where Charles and Lori decided to adopt a little boy, JJ.
It wasn't long after we got him out of the hospital that Charles approached me on it.
Kay Woodcock is Charles's sister. She and her husband Larry are little JJ's grandparents, the parents of JJ's biological father.
Say hello.
JJ had autism, and when JJ's parents couldn't care for him, Charles and Lori jumped at the chance.
They were essentially the best parents there was. And they truly did love JJ. There's no doubt in my mind.
They all did. JJ, the love center of the whole family.
Part of our family, without hesitation.
Such a charming story. Such a happy family. On her 4th try, maybe Lori had finally found a husband she could spend the rest of her life with. So, what happened? Well, about the time Colby was grown and leaving home, Charles and Lori moved back to the mainland, rented a home in Chandler, Arizona, where Lori's interest in the end times grew rapidly. There were chat groups to join, conferences to attend, like the one here in St. George, Utah. A spiritual conference for a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints group called Preparing the People. So maybe this is where the story really begins. When Lori Vallow locked eyes for the first time on a man named Chad Daybell.
This was like an instant fatal attraction.
Fatal, as it would turn out, exactly the right word to use. An author whose books of fiction were centered on biblical end times. He was married to a woman named Tammy. They raised 5 children together. And along the way, had moved here to Rexburg, Idaho. Why Rexburg? This is where he believed he and the other saints were destined to ride out war, famine, earthquakes, the end times. At that conference, Lori was swept up in all of it. And especially by Chad, with his books and ideas about the second coming. Extreme ideas that strayed far from traditional Mormon teachings. And he looked at her and was mesmerized. He called her a goddess, an actual goddess. Said he could see she had unearthly spiritual powers. And when she went back home to Arizona, she was a changed woman. As her husband Charles confided to his brothers, Bobby and Jerry.
She was saying things like she was supernatural and could fly to different planets.
When Charles traveled for work, Lori hosted little groups of end timers, Chad too, of course. And one night, when her husband returned, she locked him out of the house. And a worried Charles told police a wild story. She was threatening to murder him and have an angel dispose of his body.
Says I'm Nick Snyder, taking over Charles' body. Charles was killed.
After that, said his relative, Charles got his own place, scheduled times to be with JJ. And spring and early summer of 2019, begged Lori to see reason. Then, on July 10th, Lori texted her brother Alex, "I'm going to need you to stay close to me for the next couple of days. Thank you for standing by me. It's all coming to a head this week." Alex went to Lori's place, spent the night there. The next morning, Charles arrived as scheduled to pick up JJ for school. And then...
There was a man in a fight with my brother-in-law. I shot him in self-defense.
The police were wearing body cams when they responded to the 911 call from Lori's house.
What happened to them?
And encountered 51-year-old Alex Cox in the front yard. Inside, Charles was dead. His body sprawled on the living room floor, shot through the chest. A bit later, Lori arrived with her daughter Tyler in tow.
How long did it?
She seemed relaxed. Tried out a little joke.
Gotcha.
Here's the story Lori told down at the station. Charles, she said, was angry at her.
He doesn't want to divorce, but I don't like him, so I don't want to deal with him, so.
So, she said, when he arrived to pick up JJ for school, he was primed for a fight.
And he's like, baby, let me go. I'll break, here we go, you know. And that's just very nice, it was very nice, that's good.
Cell phone data for Charles's arrival at 7:35. You want to remember that.
He's like, acting really weird, like he's trying something, but anyway. He goes nuts. He's gone nuts. I must have watched us. Goes nuts, like yelling and screaming. Goes nuts, like screaming.
Yelling and screaming, which woke up her daughter, 16-year-old Tyler, she said.
So Tyler came out of the room, upset, and she had a bat. She told him to leave her mother alone, which wasn't great. So she was really, whatever, he's screaming at her. And then my brother heard all the commotion.
That's Lori's brother, Alex. Remember, she'd invited him over. And here he is telling police he felt the need to protect Lori.
All I heard was her saying, "Don't touch me," and I shoved him back. Okay. And I said, "What are you doing?" He's not after my sister.
Hi.
In another interview room, Tylee was supporting her mother's story.
Can you basically tell me what happened today? He honestly just looked like kind of a crazy person.
Tylee told police she had picked up a baseball bat.
They just grabbed it and tried to take it, so I held on to the end, and then eventually I fell, and he kind of took it into his hand.
Alex claimed there was quite a scrum man in the hallway with Charles.
He hit me back in the head. I don't know if it was with the bat or not. I just think it was.
Sure enough, police found the laceration on the back of Alex's head, although they didn't think it looked like a wound inflicted by a baseball bat in the hands of a big guy like Charles.
What did you do? Did you go? I just went straight to the room. Okay. Because I said, this needs to calm down.
But he didn't just sit in the bedroom and wait, he said. He picked up his .45 caliber handgun instead.
What happened when you came out with the gun? I said, put that back down. Contact, you said you go with it. Put the back down. Once. Okay. And then he started again. Yes.
Chandler police detectives, the Saturday insider Nathan Moffat, conducted the interviews of Lori and Alex. What kind of impression did you give this guy?
He was matter of fact, he was up front, but he said a very standard line of, "I wasn't here for my safety," so I shot him.
2 shots. Lori said she was in the kitchen when it happened. Came around the corner to see Charles on the floor.
I just got into mama and like, I gotta go to the kitchen, she just went, and Tylee was like looking at me with like a crazy eyes, like what just happened? And I told her to give her car and to just go.
And they did. Cell phone data shows they left the house at 7:49 a.m. 5 minutes later at 7:54, surveillance video shows Lori, JJ, and Tylee at this Burger King drive-thru grabbing breakfast before school.
She was like, "We're just gonna take you to school," and I was like, "Okay," so I just got in the car.
Differences of degree, but all 3 more or less told the same story. Backing Alex's claim that he shot Charles in self-defense.
There were small indiscrepancies, but it wasn't anything that was major, anything that you went, "Oh man, this is a big deal," or that there's a major problem here.
So it didn't make itself obvious in the beginning.
It didn't.
The first inkling that perhaps there was more to this story came when detectives drove them back to Lori's house in a police van.
The van ride was straight up bizarre for me. It was the weirdest ride I've ever had with 3 strangers.
Why would you say that?
Lori was it was kind of like a happy-go-lucky. She was just kind of smiling. It was just a very, very bizarre ride back.
Bizarre? He didn't know the half of it.
I think labeling Charles as a zombie was probably the catalyst that set this whole plot in motion.
Exactly what was going on. Couldn't see the turn, spiritual and otherwise, that Lori Ballard's life had taken since she encountered Chad Daybell 9 months earlier. Chad, her lover, and her prophet. They had been love at first sight when they met. Just one problem.
Charles was in her way. She wanted Charles out of the way because he was blocking these spiritual gifts. She was not able to accomplish the mission that she needed to do.
Oh yes, the mission. Chad imagined himself the leader of his own little church of sorts, a group he would call the Church of the Firstborn. Chad told Lori that they had been married to each other many times, over many lives, and in this life, their greatest mission of all was to bring together the 144,000 true believers for the second coming of Jesus. And that they had to fight off evil spirits inhabiting people in their own families. According to Chad, Charles may have looked human, but in fact he had turned dark, meaning he was possessed by evil spirits. Those evil spirits had turned him into a zombie with a new name. As Charles tried to tell police that night that Lori locked him out of the house.
I think labeling Charles as a zombie was probably the catalyst that set this whole plot in motion.
Dr. John Mathias is a clinical psychologist with more than 25 years' experience as a forensic interviewer and expert witness for the courts. He and his journalist wife, Lauren, host the Hidden True Crime podcast. They've studied the case from the start, developed their own strong sources, and for a time devoted their podcast exclusively to the case of Chad and Lori.
I think he was afraid. And unfortunately, the police, they looked at Charles. He's a pretty big guy, and I don't think they took it that seriously. I've got a 6-year-old special.
Maybe they should have. In the weeks before the shooting, Lori's text to her brother Alex focused on the problem of Charles, or Ned Schneider. Texts like this one. Hard to understand without context, but it seemed to make perfect sense to Alex. Apparently it is tied to Ned being gone, hopefully today or tomorrow. Alex responds, have fun and get rid of Ned already. Meanwhile, that tumultuous spring, Lori and Chad were making plans.
They went to a Latter-day Saint temple, and they felt that they had been sealed. It wasn't something that anybody pronounced upon them that, hey, you guys, Chad and Lori, are married. It was some sort of feeling that they felt they had.
How would the LDS church look on an act like that?
For a couple to come out and say we've self-sealed ourselves, you would look at them like they were crazy.
And now Charles, for Ned, was dead. So, back to that self-defense story Lori and her brother had quite convincingly told police. There were cracks. Like, for example, Alex claimed he fired his 2 shots while Charles was standing, confronting him. But the bullet police found on the floor beneath Charles's body suggested Alex took the 2nd shot when Charles was already down. And the story that Charles threatened Tylee and Alex with a baseball bat? Forensic tests found nothing conclusive to show Charles ever held that bat. And then there was this. Remember, Lori had texted Alex and asked him to stay close with Charles coming over. So why did Alex respond to police questions this way?
Is there a reason you spent the night there last night?
No, not really.
Okay.
Just we're gonna hang out today.
Okay. Did your sister ever tell you she was concerned for her safety or well-being for Charles coming there?
No.
Compare that to the way Lori answered the question.
But your brother lives there with you? No. Okay. He had stayed with me last night because I was worried he was going to come over and cause trouble with me.
Okay.
And just to wanted someone else there, like my brother there, because I trust my brother.
But in fact, something rather amazing had taken place during Lori's interview.
We do have victim services that work within the police department. They're right over here.
A victim's advocate? That's what the detective was offering.
There was this incredible transformation that occurs in Lori's interview. She essentially convinces the detective that she's a victim.
Then there was the timing of things. Phone records showed Lori left the house with the kids at 7:49 a.m. Charles had been shot by then. But Alex did not call 911 until 8:36, more than 45 minutes after the shooting. And yet on that call, Alex told the operator,
How long ago did that?
A couple of minutes.
now that was a lie, and Alex knew it. In fact, before he called 911, he phoned Lori. They had a chat. He didn't mention that, and neither did she. But those revelations would come later, much later. Too late to stop the dreadful, unthinkable things to come.
I have my
purchase the ulcerative colitis. So I'm taking Zeposia, a once-daily pill, because I won't let UC stop me from being me.
Zeposia can help people with UC achieve and maintain remission, and has been shown to reduce symptoms in as early as 2 weeks. Zeposia is the first and only S1P receptor modulator approved for UC. Don't take Zeposia if you had a heart attack,